States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon, everyone. Did you have a good weekend? Did you eat a lot? I ate too much. So let's go to the lady from Montgomery County who will offer the prayer today.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
This is our last full week of the 2026 session.
Yes.
As we begin this week, let us pray for endurance and focus. Lord, we thank you that your power is made perfect in our weakness. Strengthen us with the power through your Spirit so we may have the endurance to finish the task before us, not just with completion, but with excellence. Let this week be a blessed and amazing one. Amen.
Amen. Foreign call.
Madam Speaker.
Give people another minute to get to their seats. Okay. The clerk will call the roll. There being 109 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 18th, 2026.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So much be considered the reading of the journal.
So order petitions, memorials, and other papers. So we have one House resolution, and I am actually calling on the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I rise to recognize the 20th anniversary of a historic and tragic moment in our nation's history. Permission to use delegates' names?
Permission granted. 1 second. May we all listen, please? This is really important. And very tragic.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, allow me to paint a picture for you. The year is 2006. A new social media platform has just been launched. It's called Twitter. The top grossing film is Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. And Taylor Swift has just released her first single. But deep in the heart of Alabama, a high school junior with long, unruly hair and a burning passion for service, or perhaps just a relentless need for attention, is working tirelessly to fulfill his dream to be elected governor of the state's youth legislature, following in the footsteps of his own father. This young man drives his beat-up Honda Accord to every corner of the state, compiling an unlikely, some might say desperate, coalition, courting the votes of homeschooled Alabama teens. But in the end, all his efforts and his flowing locks would prove insufficient to overcome his more handsome and more charming opponent, whose sharper intellect, better hair, and strategic political alliances led to a decisive victory. Meanwhile, the incredibly embarrassing defeat for the young man with the unruly hair brought unending shame to the legacy of his father, the former youth governor, and also to the late great icon Chuck Norris, who would have easily won the election by 12 million votes, even though only 3,000 had been cast. But perhaps worst of all, he disappointed Maryland's official state hero, Delegate Barry Ciliberti, who, upon reading about this tragic episode on Twitter, very nearly careened his Oldsmobile off the Eastport Bridge. So while his far more handsome and far more charming opponent went on to great success, in the wake of his defeat, this young man trudged along for years, masking his festering sense of self-doubt by cruelly victimizing unsuspecting colleagues with pranks and witticisms, and by pontificating with unjustified confidence on topics of all sorts, from redistricting to pet monkeys. Just imagine what he might have become if he had not botched that youth legislature election in such spectacular fashion. Today, he's just a lowly attorney and a mouthpiece, burning precious time on our House floor with oratory too clever by half, a mere shell of the man he might have been. And so, on this 20th anniversary of the fated failure that would forever change the course of his life and world history, I ask the body to join me as we offer our sincerest, heartfelt condolences to Delegate, but not Governor, Vaughn Stewart.
Will the clerk please read the full resolution?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest condolences to Delegate Vaughn Stewart in recognition of the 20th anniversary of your deeply humiliating loss in your failed race for Alabama Youth Governor. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this third day of April 2026.
All right. Now, some serious business. We have the report of the Committee on Judiciary. It is report number 36. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 162, Criminal Procedure, motion to reduce durations of sentence, repeal of sentencing date limitation, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 221, Criminal Law, Child Pornography, Prohibitions and Penalties, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 230, Criminal Law, Third Degree Sexual Offenses, Burglary, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 822, Correctional Services, Maryland Parole Commission and Erroneously Convicted Individuals, Improvements in Transparency and Equity, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the minority leader. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
You're welcome.
Madam Speaker, if the floor leader would entertain a question, thank you. What does the bill do with respect to what we call in the bill erroneously convicted individuals?
Thank you for the question. So the bill was amended in the Senate to add this piece, which an amendment to what is commonly known as the Walter-Lomax Act, which provides for restitution for people who are wrongfully convicted. And what it does is, so under current law, it specifies...
Can you put the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Under current law, the Walter-Lomax Act specifies which entities are parties to the administrative procedure that determines, pursuant to a formula, the restitution amount if there is a determination of wrongful conviction. And the parties are the state's attorney, the attorney general, I think, and maybe one other. What this amendment does is specifies that the county itself is not a party to that proceeding. And additionally, the county cannot be designated by the state's attorney as a party.
So if I recall correctly, I think last year we made a decision, a legislative decision, that in fact the counties would be responsible for, I think, up to 50% of the money that these individuals get. So there's a process by which they go through, and it ultimately winds up at the Board of Public Works, and the Board of Public Works usually gives them millions of dollars, and their attorneys, or over $1 million in many of the cases. I don't want to say millions, but I've seen many of them that are for 1 point something million plus attorney's fees. And that we made a determination that the counties would have to pay a percentage of this. Is that fair last year?
It was in the BRFA, I believe.
In the BRFA,
Yep.
the mysterious BRFA, why I always vote against it. No one knows what's there. So it was in the BRFA, even though it was a bill about criminal compensation. And I got to be honest with you, I'm a big fan of that because, to the best of my knowledge, absolutely no one from Allegheny County, where I live, has ever been found to have been erroneously convicted and awarded compensation under this system. But the vast majority of individuals that have benefited from it are from the Baltimore metropolitan area, Baltimore City, Baltimore County. For my research, is like 75–80% of people who've gotten this money come from those jurisdictions. But my question, I guess, is what is the rationale if we're going to make the counties pay a portion of it, which I personally agree with, because my voters had absolutely nothing to do with 90% of these matter, 100%. Then why aren't the counties allowed to participate in the process by which the compensation is determined?
So I would say two reasons. One is there's a question of was there wrongful conviction? And so that is something the state's attorney has information about. That is something the state, represented by the Attorney General, may have information about. But the other question is the amount of compensation, and that is set based on the number of days the person
Right.
served. So it is not that the county can't have a say, but they don't have any special knowledge with regard to those two matters. And so they are again, under the law as it exists, they are not a party, but this clarifies that they're not allowed to be a party. And this is in part because they have moved to intervene, some counties, at least one county, has moved to intervene in this proceeding, and it has caused delay, unnecessary delay in the view of.
Do you have any information as to what county that was?
I know that it's in Eastern Shore County. I want to say it was Worcester, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. So there's been a situation where a county has said, hey, we think that our interests need to be represented in this process of was it an erroneous conviction, is compensation due, and basically it created a legal question of should you really be here or not, and the bill wants to say you shouldn't be here.
The Senate determined that they should not, we should clarify that, I should say. We should clarify it, and that was done.
Was this, and I apologize for this, I could find this on my own, but I didn't do it, and I know you probably already know. Was this bill already passed through the House? Is there already a cross-file that we've considered, or is this something that's new to the floor?
We have passed, I'm the sponsor, and we have passed the House version, and it is now in the Senate.
It's now in the Senate, but you didn't have that provision in
I did not.
that section. And what about the second part about the parole commission? I read something about we're clarifying, I guess, or we're now mandating that how many times can you come back to the parole commission under the bill?
We have, well, so let me stress that under current law, in theory, if you're eligible for parole, you should have parole hearings. And the department's position is not that that doesn't happen. In fact, they say it does happen, but when the data was provided pursuant to a PIA, it showed that there were people in sort of in a limbo where they were not having a parole hearing scheduled. Those who were eligible were not having a parole hearing scheduled. So it is hard to know what, under current law, is the adequate time between hearings. What this law does, both the Senate version and the version we passed, is depending on the length of the sentence, it says the next parole hearing, if the person is denied, shall be no later than. And there are three different tiers.
How later would it be? So I'm convicted, I'm incarcerated, I have all these variety we've talked about here for years, the multiplicity of ways that you can try to get out of jail after you've been convicted. You can go back to the courts through a variety of mechanisms we've created, and were created before we ever got here. And then you also can go to the parole commission. You go once, you get denied. How long is it under the bill until you can try again?
Thank you for the question. So if you are sentenced to a period of 10 years or less, then no more than 2 years can pass after you have been denied. So if it's a sentence of 10 years or less, it would be a 2-year period after the
original denial.
After the original
or
denial.
any subsequent denial.
For an incarcerated individual who is sentenced to a period of 10 years, or more than 10 years, then it would be 3 years after the denial. But, and this is based on conversations with victim groups, if the person has been sentenced to a period of incarceration exceeding 20 years for a crime against an individual, then they would have a 3-year period after the first denial and then 5 years thereafter. So that is recognizing the seriousness of those crimes.
Taking into account that it's very difficult sometimes for victims and their families to continue to appear over and over and over again and recount the stories of what happened to their loved ones.
Correct.
Thank you. I appreciate your explanation of the bill. It helps me clarify that very much.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Rick, sorry, the gentleman from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a couple
You're
more
welcome.
questions for the floor leader.
Floor leader,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So I had the bill that was supported by MACO to undo this provision.
Yes.
Can you tell me what are some of the typical awards granted that this provision is trying to address?
You mean in terms of amount?
Yes.
I know they vary from the hundreds of thousands to over $1 million. I don't know the max that has been awarded,
So
but it's substantial, yes.
right, one of my concerns is when you look at counties like Kent County, Kent County's total budget is $50 million. And for them to be forced to handle one of these compensations, you know, say it's $2 million, right? That's and then half of it, that's 2% of their entire county budget. And they are not allowed to be a party to try to navigate 2% of the entire budget for one case. I mean, I don't understand. If somebody was affecting 2% of any of our budgets, even of our own life, we would be a party to that. So can you help me explain the justification for this when we're talking about such a big part of these small counties' budgets?
Well, the law that we passed, although it predated me, but the Walter Lomax Act did not include them as a party. It did not contemplate them being parties. It included the Attorney General and the state's attorney. And again, as I explained, that's because the issues was there a wrongful conviction? And based on the formula in the statute, what's the amount of money? This clarifies existing law.
Well, the Walter Lomax Act, I believe, didn't contemplate having the counties be responsible for 50% of the cost either, correct?
That's true. That cost provision, the cost sharing was put in place last year, I believe. And I would just add on the cost sharing, as you know, I mean, you've been involved in this legislation. The local jurisdictions, the police department, the state's attorney, are the ones involved in the wrongful conviction, not the state. And so I don't want to speak to the wisdom of the BRFA, but I think that's the theory, is that these actions were caused by local actors who were elected locally. I understand the state's attorney is a state position, but elected locally. The police department is run, you know, is a locally run department. Sometimes it's the sheriff. But so the 50-50 is born out of that consideration that these are, the wrongful conviction itself was actions by local actors or locally elected or hired actors.
And first and foremost, I voted for the Walter Lomax Act. I think it's a great bill. That's not the concern here. The concern is, so say that during the process they even verify that local law enforcement did their job properly, everything was appropriate, and something happened at the state's attorney level, the local level would still be responsible for 50% of the wrongful conviction under this, the compensation for the wrongful conviction.
Well, the state's attorney's budgets, as you know, are local and they are locally elected. So I just would push back a little bit on the state's attorneys not being connected to the county, but also often these wrongful convictions do involve police action as well as state's attorney's decisions.
So I certainly have some significant concerns about the effects on the local governments and the very small governments in our state. Would it be possible to request a special order at the appropriate time next session, tonight or tomorrow, whenever that is?
Just check with my Madam Chair. Madam Chair, would we accept a special order? Oh, we cannot. Oh, you can amend it. Thank you. We can amend on third reader. So would that be?
All right, we'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Any other amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The next report is a report of the Committee on Judiciary. It is report number 35. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
House Bill 577, Criminal Law, Firearm Crimes, Machine Gun Convertible Pistols. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Move so
welcome.
much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
This bill simply amends the bill to conform to Senate Bill 334, which is its cross-file. Move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Would it be possible to special order this bill and its partner in crime, SB 334, to the next session for the purpose of an amendment?
Yes, that is fine. Though the Senate bill you can amend on third reader, but
Understand.
with the House bill, we're fine with the special order.
Okay. Just want to keep them together so that we're not
Understood.
duplicating efforts. But, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The question before the House is to special order House Bill 577. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 577 has been special order until the next session. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 687, Criminal Procedure Evidence Protecting Artists' Creative Expression, PACE Act. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Good afternoon,
Good
Madam
afternoon.
Speaker. The committee amendment would alter the admissibility exception. Move the amendment, Madam Speaker.
So ordered. The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 140, Criminal Law Benefits Exploitation. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
The amendment makes technical corrections and removes open-ended language in the criminal prohibition. Move the amendment, Madam
The
Speaker.
question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 334, Criminal Law, Firearms, Crimes, Machine Gun, Convertible Pistols. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move
You're
so
welcome.
much be considered the reading of
So
the
order.
amendments. This bill has one amendment, simply strikes shall, and substitutes the Department of State Police to may adopt regulations to implement the bill, including publishing a list of prohibited machine gun convertible pistols. Please move the amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I
You're
realize
welcome.
that you can amend these on third reader, but just to keep things procedurally in the same posture, would you mind if I special order this to the next session to match
Sure,
the
that's
House bill?
perfectly
Thank you.
fine.
Thank you, Madam
Thanks.
Speaker.
The question before the House, you're welcome, is before the House is to special order Senate Bill 334. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 334 has been special order until the next session. Will the clerk read the next bill, please?
Senate Bill 475, Criminal Procedure Evidence Protecting Artists' Creative Expression, PACE Act. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Once again, good afternoon, Madam Speaker.
Good afternoon.
Move so much be the reading of the amendment.
So order.
The amendment alters the admissibility exception. Please move the amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 514, Criminal Law, Third Degree Assault. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader again.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
All right. Amendment number 1 makes technical and clarifying changes. Move the amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Any vote change?
No, I thought you had seen me. I didn't want to interrupt you. I did have some questions for the floor leader, but it's a Senate bill, so we'll get it on third.
Thank you for being patient. Sorry I did not see you. So, you got it. Current call.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will, everyone recorded their vote? Give you a second to make it. The clerk will take the call. There being 130 members present, the House is still in session. This is Senate third reading calendar number 16. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 6, State Personnel, Collective Bargaining, Non-Tenure Track Faculty.
Senate Bill number 6 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 34 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 6, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. So clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 80, Maryland Public Ethics Law, Financial Disclosure Statements, State Officials and Candidates to be a State Official of the Judicial Branch.
Senate Bill number 80 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 80, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 91, State Board of Elections, Address Confidentiality Program, Designation of Contact Person.
Senate Bill number 91 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 91, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 100, Election Law, Early Voting Centers, Bus Stops.
Senate Bill number 100 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 33 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 100, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Senate third calendar number 24. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 160, Public Safety, Licensed Firearms Dealers, Notification Regarding Compromising Events.
Senate Bill number 160 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 33 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 160, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 252, Maryland Legal Services Corporation, Board of Directors, Membership.
Senate Bill number 252 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 95 votes in the affirmative and 34 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 252, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 323, Juvenile Court Jurisdiction, Detention and Confinement, Youth Charging Reform Act.
Senate Bill number 323 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment
You're welcome.
number 943025.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
So what this amendment does is it requires notification to the victims. Now, I will say that this body has apparently put in a lot of thought about juveniles that may make a horrible decision earlier in their lives. I mean, we talked about development for youth. I've even heard some say that the brain doesn't develop until they're 25, and I'm sure that's some of the genesis for legislation like this. But there's another party that seems to always be left out of the discussion. The victim, right? Some of these juveniles, young, they make a horrible mistake and they kill someone, or they rape someone, or they disfigure someone. They permanently disable someone. They destroy someone's life forever. They destroy family members' lives forever. And I get it, it's a juvenile. And we have a juvenile system in Maryland that focuses on rehabilitation so that hopefully these young people can turn their lives around. That's okay. What my amendment does simply is it notifies the victims whose lives have been changed forever. Forever. So that way, before someone makes a decision and say, hey, we're not going to hold this juvenile accountable, maybe we just give them a slap on the wrist. Why don't we involve the victims? Now, it's my understanding that some of the jurisdictions do this already. This would require everyone to do it. This is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do. If you think it's the right thing to do to give juveniles a second chance, my God, let's give the victims an opportunity to be heard. The victims. At the end of the day, the juvenile offender is not the victim. The juvenile offender is a young person that's made a mistake. The victim is the victim. This amendment is for all of those in Maryland that have been really hurt or killed, and their lives have been forever changed. And so I ask this body to support the mere notification to the victims and the victim's family before we decide to charge a juvenile as an adult or a minor. I move the amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the floor leader, which is the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
And thank you to the good delegate from Frederick for supplying the amendment. Members, I ask that you reject the amendment for several reasons. First of all, it is not what is in the bill. The bill is very limited in the cases in which a child is charged as an adult. Some of those situations, while they are extremely horrific, are not what is in the bill. Second of all, a victim notification statement is already allowed in law under the juvenile code. It requires that the victim has to get notice. And in fact, I can speak on this personally because I actually was a victim in a circumstance, and I received notice. And the state's attorney asked me, what would I like to do? And I said, I want them to pay for what they did, and I just want a letter. And that's what I got. I got a letter of apology, and the young person paid for the repair of my car. So my point is that this is already law. This is already available. Victim impact statements are already available. But not only that, the victim is always taken into consideration because, as I have said many times to this body and to my committee, that judiciary is about balance. We do not, and we cannot, and we do not have the privilege of looking at one side and one side only. We must balance rights. So we look at the individual who is the defendant, and we look at the injury that is caused to the state, and we balance them. This bill is about judicial discretion and judicial efficiency. And I agree, the victims must be involved, and they are involved, especially when there is a judge involved and they can make their statement. So I ask you to reject the amendment and follow me on a red vote. Thank you.
You're welcome. Recognizing the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
So,
welcome.
words matter, and I appreciate the chair giving her explanation, but what she said was that it's allowed. It's not required. What my amendment does is it requires it. And so just because you may have a jurisdiction or a couple jurisdictions that may reach out to the victim's family, I think they all should, my amendment says they're required to. So that is not the current law. The current law does not require that. The current law, as the chair said, may allow it. It's two different things. The other thing, and I don't want to get into a back and forth on what crimes are permitted, I'm assuming felony murder is not included in the legislation for notification, right? Felony murder. You guys remember when a bunch of juveniles drove over a police officer in Harford County? Remember that? So I don't know if second-degree murder is included. There's a whole bunch of other violent offenses that this body has held our most serious offenders in Maryland accountable for, violent offenses. I think this bill is limited to just, I think, first-degree rape and first-degree murder, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm incorrect, somebody can certainly stand up and challenge me on that. But I would just say this. And we should notify the victims. It should be a requirement to notify the people that have suffered the most. It doesn't change the purpose of the bill. It just provides an opportunity to hear from our citizens that have been most impacted by this tragic event. That's what this is about. This is about balance. I heard the word balance. We should be taking care of our victims. You're taking care of the juvenile offender in this bill, but we should also be taking care of the victims. So for me, I'll be voting green, proudly green, because I'm going to stand up for the victims in my state. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the full leader again.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So I didn't hear everything that you said, but either you said it was a lie or not in law. I wasn't sure. I couldn't hear the beginning of your premise there, but I will say this. Shall means shall. And the section that I'm looking at under under the Courts and Judicial Proceedings article under section 3-8A06, C says that notice of the waiver hearing shall be given to a victim. So if shall means shall the way I believe it to mean, then it's something that has to happen. The victim has to be notified. I'd also urge you to stick with the bill as it is written, and you will see in the bill as it is written, murder is definitely not one of the charges in which an individual would not be charged as an adult. So I continue to urge you to reject this amendment. Thank you very much.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 87 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I have an amendment at the desk, amendment number 503923.
Amendment number 1.
So much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
Basically, this amendment would keep auto charging as adults, juveniles who use firearms in drug crimes. Basically, anybody that picks a gun up and thinks that they can go and use it in a drug crime, to me, if they're an adult or a juvenile, they should have consequences. Thank you.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wasn't sure if the gentleman was finished. Thank you.
You're welcome.
While I understand the premise behind the amendment request. I urge you all to reject the amendment because there has been great pains taken into consideration into which crimes would be included. And I'll say the reason for that is because, as I mentioned earlier on the gentleman from Frederick County's amendment, this bill is about balance and judicial efficiency as well as judicial effectiveness. And with that said, we found that 80% of crimes that involved firearms, juvenile possession of possession of firearms were sent back or transferred down to juvenile court. So that is the reason why we selected these particular crimes that are in the bill, because we wanted to make sure we could have what has been called a few times proof of concept. And that proof of concept is what specifically, because we've got various agencies involved here. We've got, Department of Juvenile Services involved. We've got the courts involved. We've got DPSCS involved. And so with that said, we can't make a sweeping change, and we're making an incremental change. These are the specific crimes that we found that 80% end up going to juvenile court anyway, and because of that, it made more sense to include them this time and this go round. So thank you for the amendment, but I urge the body to vote no.
Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I appreciate that. I read the fiscal note. It says that there were about 300 individuals charged, 16 and under, as adults with handgun crimes. 200 and some of them did go back to juvenile court. That shows that the system works the way you want it to work. It shows that more than 2 out of every 3 times they operate through a process where a judge and a prosecutor and a defense attorney all come in and say, in this particular case, that individual can be appropriately adjudicated in juvenile court. We don't track them. We don't say what happened. We don't know whether Timmy or Bobby that went to juvenile court and did his 3 months in beautiful Western Maryland, whether he then shot and killed someone on the streets of his hometown a year later. We don't know. We can guess that because we can read. We can read media reports about juvenile recidivism and juvenile crime that blossoms into the worst crimes possible. But what the fiscal note also tells us is there were 58 individuals in 2025, the most recent year of statistics, 58, that's more than 1 a week in a state as small as Maryland, that are charged, juvenile, 16 and younger, with having a handgun in the commission of drug trafficking. That is a gang. I have a handgun and I'm pointing it at someone and I'm being arrested. I'm using it on the streets in the pursuit of drug trafficking. Or I have a handgun, and guess what? One of the offenses we're trying to remove from the provisions of this bill and say you should be charged as an adult because you've already been previously convicted. It's not your first go around. Obviously the juvenile system didn't work very well because you were picked up once, and if anybody believes that the very first time you ever committed a crime, the very first time in your life you ever got a gun and you went out on the streets and you robbed someone or you used it in connection with drug, the very first time you ever did it in your whole life, that's the time the police got you. You are the world's worst criminal. The first time you ever committed a criminal act with a gun, you got caught, you got sentenced, it's over. If you believe that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. But the first time you got caught, under the provisions of the gentleman's amendment, the first time you got caught, you went into the juvenile system. And what happened? Well, flat out busted nothing. Because you were right back on the streets, and you did it again. And now you get caught, well, we'll charge you with a juvenile again. That's all we're asking. That's all we're saying. That's all the amendment does is folks who are on the street. I feel terrible. I feel terrible that a 15-year-old boy would be on the street using a gun for anything. What message are we sending to those individuals when we say, well, you did it once, it's okay. Do it again. We did it once. It's okay. We'll just put you through the juvenile system again. You can never really go time. What message, I ask yourself this, live with me now in the real world. What message are we sending to their 19, 20, 25, 30, 40-year-old bosses who run the gangs, who run the organizations? Criminals are dumb, but they're not stupid. They figure out that, you know what, if Timmy or Bobby is the one who holds the gun and waves it around in the drug transaction and gets arrested, nothing much is going to happen to Timmy or Bobby. State of Maryland says he's just going to be charged as a juvenile automatically. He can't do adult time. He'll be back here very quickly. Now, if Pete or Jimmy does it, that's 19 or 21 or 22, well, he's going DOC. Get the gun away from Pete. Give it to Timmy. Let him wave it around. He's 15. If you think that the 25 or the 30-year-old or the 40-year-old who's running the gang can't figure this out, you're not living in reality. It's a good amendment. It's a reasonable amendment, and we should consider it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. You're welcome to both.
For all the reasons I stated before, and I'd also like to state that this amendment is not needed because, in fact, when I was saying that we carefully reviewed all of the crimes, the crime we are speaking of is in the bill. And so the individual is automatically charged as an adult for under 4-204. So it's not needed, and I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 88 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Madam Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk. It is amendment number 773229/1.
Amendment number 1.
Moves so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Body, what this amendment does, and apologize for a little bit of delay getting it over to the floor leader today. I got it to you a few minutes ago. This amendment will limit the bill's provisions to first-time offenders. And so second and subsequent offenses would automatically be sent to adult court. And so it's narrow in scope, and it limits that bill's provisions to the first-time offenders. We've talked today about efficiency and effectiveness. I want to refer the body to some of the testimony that's here. You know, the goal of this is to prevent and stop repeat offenders. We've had a 14-year-old that was charged late last week, repeat offender. We want to make sure that we're protecting the citizens of Maryland, the citizens of our cities. The testimony also references some highlights from the State's Attorney Association. And like I said, the Office of the Public Defender highlights 15 pages with significant statistics regarding this bill. And so what this amendment will do, body and Madam Speaker, is limit the bill's provisions to the first-time offenders. And so really want to get back to that point. And that way the automatic charging will be the second and subsequent offender so that we don't have continuous issues and continuous crime across our state, and that we're protecting our citizens and our victims. I ask you to move the amendment, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
You're welcome. Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker,
You're welcome.
and thank you to the maker of the amendment. It's really nice. It even says at the top, a friendly amendment from an old friend. But I still urge you to reject it. And I'll tell you why.
He's being extra sweet.
Yes, he was, and it's in pink, and my favorite color, so that's really nice. But I will say, members, the judge has the discretion in all cases, and especially in these cases, that is intentional. Not only that, the state's attorneys have the discretion to decide whether or not they want to even waive the case from juvenile court to to adult court. When they do that, the judge has to hear the merits and hear the arguments and will make the decision. And it's not done in a vacuum. It's not done merely because you're at number 2. We know how 3 strikes and you're out went. So I urge you to reject the amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 88 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I
You're
have an
welcome.
amendment at the desk 393423/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The amendment at the desk would do this. It would prohibit the accrual of what's called diminution credits for those individuals who have been convicted of first-degree murder in the state of Maryland, except for those individuals who committed the crime while they were juveniles, 17 and younger. Diminution credits are something that most of us should be somewhat familiar with. They let you get out of jail without a parole decision. They let you get out of jail early without a court order. They let you get out of jail early without victim notification. You get out of jail early simply because every day you're there, you accrue points, which translate into days, for being a good prisoner. I live in a community, as many of you know, that has some of the state's largest correctional facilities within my district. I have friends, relatives, clients, people I've known my whole life who serve as correctional officers, and they will tell you the diminution credits have a valuable purpose to enforce better behavior from prisoners who are incarcerated in very difficult situations and are individuals, in many cases, if you go to the North Branch Correctional Institution in Cumberland, Maryland, really outside of Cumberland, on any given day, 3 out of 4 men incarcerated there are there for murder or some variation of murder. They are not there as car thieves. They are not low-level drug dealers. They are not people who pass bad checks. They're not even people who got in a fight. They're people who have killed another human being in one form or fashion in their lives, and they've been caught, and they've been prosecuted, and they've been given every due process available to them, and they have been found or pled guilty, and they are serving lengthy sentences. And diminution credits are designed to curb behaviors. But I think when you look at what we have done with our diminution credit framework in this state, do you know what you can't accrue diminution credits for in terms of a convicted offense? Rape. A variety of rape offenses. Doesn't have to be first-degree rape if the victim was under the age of 16. Thank God. It's horrible. First-degree rape of anyone, victim could be of any age, can't accrue them. Can't. Rape is a horrible offense. Terrible, awful thing. Anyone who is a woman, anyone who has a mother, a wife, a daughter, a granddaughter, just sits and thinks about how terrible that would be. But my Lord, is it different than murder? First degree murder. That's all the amendment talks about. If you vote against this amendment, you're voting to allow first degree murderers, the worst of the worst, to continue to get out of jail early. Again, we've given them second looks. They have parole. They have probation. We just talked about a bill that they'll be able to come back for parole over and over and over again. They have a variety of ways to appeal to the judge who sentenced them or the court system. But if that's not good enough, we just let them out early, just because they didn't kill anybody else while they were in jail. Diminution credits might work if you're trying to change behaviors of a drug dealer, of a low-level gang member, of someone who has that potentiality. But when you commit the worst offense that has ever existed on this earth since the days of the Bible to today, and we just let you out early because you didn't kill anybody else or do anything else while you're in prison. We let you accrue diminution credits the same way we let a bad check passer accrue them. That's not right. And the bill to be reasonable, the amendment, excuse me, because I really believe in being reasonable, and I believe in we're trying to do things for juveniles, we're trying to set them apart. It specifically says that someone who commits first-degree murder at 15, 16, 17 years old, still going to be charged as an adult, still going to be convicted as an adult potentially under this bill, they get the diminution credits. They get them. We'll differentiate there. They get them. They were young, they get them. But not adults. Not adults. Not first-degree murderers. They should not get diminution credits and get out of jail early when they have every other chance to do so. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
and
welcome.
thank you to the minority leader for supplying me with the amendment prior to. And I will say this is a very reasonable bill. And it's reasonable, and it is very narrowly tailored. And in fact, the bill never even speaks to diminution credits at all. The amendment is outside of the scope of what the bill is about, because what the bill is about is getting kids out of adult detention and limiting the number of kids that are charged as an adult. So the problem is, you know, it's really interesting being floor leader sometimes, because you can get a whole lot of texts and things at the same time that you're trying to focus on and listen to. But one text I got was very interesting to me, and that was, why are we harder on kids than we are on adults? And I thought that was a great point. Why would we be harder on someone who committed a crime as a child than we would an adult? Why? Oh, why? So I'll say this. What happens when you're a kid and you're charged as an adult? Before you are even adjudicated, you are held in adult detention. And what does that look like? Well, you're in for 24 hours, restrictive housing. You don't get any physical relief, meaning go out. You don't get any educational relief. You don't get any mental health relief. You don't get any rehabilitative services. But we heard a bill today. What happens if you finally are convicted and it was a mistake? What happens if you are erroneously convicted for a crime that you committed as a child? And so I urge you all to vote against this amendment for those reasons, and also because diminution credits apply to adults. We don't need to be harder on our kids than we are on adults. We certainly don't need to keep our kids confined in restrictive housing for 24 hours a day before they're even adjudicated. And we certainly want to make clear and be certain, if we charge anyone who is a minor at any time for any crime, that we do it, and we do it with that if we're going to do it, we do it before a judge who has an opportunity to listen to the facts. We do it, and that child who has the ability to be rehabilitated, because that is what we do for our youth. We punish our adults and we try to rehabilitate our children. And in doing so, we would never want to say someone who did something when they were 16 or 17 years old, we're going to lock you up and we're going to throw away the key, and you will never have the opportunity to be released, and you will never have the opportunity for diminution credits. We can't do that. We can't do that, Marilyn. We can't do that for all those reasons, and also for the simple fact that we had people, someone earlier mentioned the testimony that comes into our committee. We had people come before us who committed crimes when they were a child and who are now what we call credible messengers, who are teaching other children, teaching others who are children, they are adult now, what not to do. And they can relate to those children. And they would never have been out but for some level of diminution credit. So I ask you to resist this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the lady from Harford County.
Thank you so much, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
I'm enjoying hearing the discussion today, and I think my chair is doing a good job on a bill that she and I don't really agree on. But I will just say for the body, for those of you who are actually really trying to decide whether or not you're going to vote up or down on this amendment, the topic of solitary confinement for youth, we have actually passed a bill off this floor already to stop that from happening. So I would say if that triggered you or you felt like that's just a bridge too far, we have actually addressed that in the committee already. So that should not be occurring. And I'll just say, on the topic of why would we be more aggressive in our response to young children, my gut immediately said, because there's still hope. Because there's still hope that we might be able to stop them, improve the outcome. A lot of times, as time goes on and someone is a serial recidivist, we've given up. We've given up, and so sometimes I think many of us feel when the problem has just begun, if you respond extremely firm, you're much more likely to have a swift turnaround than if you have a soft response and allow the problem to fester. And so for anyone who is unsure if they would support this amendment, I would say we have addressed the issue of child solitary confinement already on this floor this year, and a firm hand right from the start can sometimes save a child's life.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to correct the record on one particular thing that's very, very important. What we passed in this body was the use of restrictive housing in a juvenile facility. A child charged as an adult is currently placed in an adult facility, and in those facilities, because they are not geared for children, they are not designed for children, the staff has to place them in restrictive housing, and what happens is they pull down a screen to try to keep them separate from sight and sound of adults. So that's what I was speaking of when I said kids in restrictive housing. I still urge you to resist the amendment.
Recognizing the minority leader.
I appreciate the colloquy that engaged, but that's not what this amendment is about at all. The amendment has absolutely nothing to do with the housing of individuals charged with first-degree murder. It has everything to do with how we penalize them after they have been convicted. I heard about erroneous convictions. Erroneous convictions certainly have occurred in the state of Maryland and everywhere else. They are an infinitesimal statistical number of those individuals convicted. It is a teeny tiny, it doesn't matter. If I was the person who was wrongfully convicted, if it was my family member, that would be a tragedy. But if it was me or my family member who got murdered, that would be just as much, if not more, of a tragedy. Because murder is the only thing that takes away everything you ever had and everything you'll ever be in an instant. Everything else, no matter how terrible, no matter how difficult, no matter how troubling, no matter how traumatic, can be overcome in the human experience by the grace of something higher than us. Murder can't. When you're dead, you're dead. When you've killed someone, they're gone. They can't come back and wish their mother happy Mother's Day. They can't hug their kids that night. They can't go to college. They can't go to church. They can't enjoy a glass of wine. They can't have fun with their friends. They're gone. They're dead forever. And all those people around them will never be the same. And anyone who's ever dealt with anyone who had this happen to them or their family will tell you that. You'll never be the same. All the amendment does, and I respect my good friend, the chair of the committee, and she said, why would we treat children worse than adults? The amendment specifically does not do that. It says that if you are convicted of first-degree murder while you are still a juvenile, you are eligible for the diminution credits. You are eligible. But if you're not eligible for the diminution credits. That's the way the law should work. Diminution credits are not the only way to get out of jail either. We just went through all of this. It is not, if you don't get diminution credits, you're never going to get out of jail. Why do we have a parole commission then? Why do we have judges? Why do we have the Second Look Act? Why do we have any of this stuff if the only way you can get out of jail is diminution credits? Diminution credits is just adding on to the entire bucket of reasons why a convicted first-degree murderer gets out of jail early. And they should not get out through the operation of an administrative process. They should have to go and prove it to a judge, to a parole commissioner. Not just through, I counted my days, I didn't do anything else, let me out early. That's all the amendment does. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, you should vote red against this amendment. It has nothing to do with this bill at all. This bill is about ensuring that we don't put young people in adult jails if it's not necessary. And this bill is not perfect. It doesn't do all the things that I would like it to do in the other direction of the amendments that have been offered today. But at the end of the day, this amendment was a bill in the Senate this year. It was Senate Bill 105. It went through a process. It had a hearing. It was not moved through the Senate. So the gentleman would like to offer this as a bill which would stand on its own because it's a completely different subject for what we are considering today, how we protect the children and make sure that they can be saved from a system that has failed them. This bill also has a racial, the bill that is being proposed as an amendment has a racial impact note. And it says that DPSCS has already stated that prohibiting or limiting the use of diminution credits to reduce terms of incarceration would eliminate a key rehabilitative component for the affected inmates. And of course it says the largely black incarcerated population in Maryland will be impacted by the bill to the greatest extent. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. Please vote red, and I will be red as well.
Recognizing the minority whip.
Madam Speaker,
You're welcome.
you know, it's very rare that we offer 4 amendments and we're told basically on each amendment that they're either incorrect, they don't do what we say we're doing, that the bill is different. So I would like to invoke Rule 53C2, hold the bill over for 1 hour so that we can confirm with the chair and DLS on what this bill actually does.
Madam Speaker,
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
I have just one quick question for the parliamentarian, please.
Yes.
Mr. Parliament, is this motion debatable?
The layover of the motion.
Yeah, because I have a question. That's why I wanted to find out if it's
I believe
debatable.
the amendment is the
amendment is the subject, not the bill. That was my question. So that we can confer on the amendment.
1 second.
For that 1 hour.
1 second. Is the gentleman supported? Okay. All right, now we're going to following the rules, right? So now we can continue. Go ahead.
Okay. My question
Thank you.
is, and I can't get to my book because I got all this stuff on my desk. I wanted to find out if the motion is debatable or if I could have a question on the motion.
the motion to layover is not debatable.
Okay. That's what I thought. Thank you.
So the delegate was supported, and the amendment have been
Madam
made.
Speaker, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the rule book. Could I ask a question of the parliamentarian, please?
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
It's okay.
So under Rule 53, 2, it says of the proposed amendment thereto shall lie over for 1 hour only, but upon the motion of any member supported by a majority of the members then present, the request shall not be granted. Is that?
It needs to be a roll call, which I presume we were getting ready to do. After the motion was
Yes.
supported, we're going to go to roll call. If it's voted either up or down, then at that time it would either be a yes or a no.
So could I make a motion?
Well, there's already a motion on the floor that has to be voted on. It's been supported.
Okay.
And I guess that motion will be voted either up or down.
Thank you.
Right. Recognizing the minority whip.
And we
Go
should
ahead.
have a roll call, Madam Speaker. I believe that was what the stand was for.
So,
All right.
so appreciate the speaker recognizing me. So I'm not trying to sabotage. I'm merely trying to confirm because there was some debate about what the bill actually does.
So we're going to have a roll call, okay? So the question before the House, is not to allow the layover. Oh, 1 second, to allow the layover, sorry. So I was correct. I've been told by the clerk, excuse me, that I was right. That the question before the House is not to allow the layover, right? That's what the clerk is saying. All right? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll. This is how it's done. Okay? To not allow the layover.
Madam Speaker, to explain my vote.
Recognizing, 1 second please, the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I am voting green to not allow the layover like the Speaker has voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the delegate
I'm
from
voting
Anne Arundel.
red. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm voting red because I also have some questions that I would like to get squared away. We've heard testimony today from the good chair that there is some shall language in the bill, some notification confusion. So I am voting red to allow the layover so I can get clarification. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm voting green because I merely asked for 1 hour to confirm what this red, it's a Monday. I'm voting red because I merely asked in good faith for 1 hour to confirm with the chair and DLS some of the questions that we had in good faith, because this is a serious piece of legislation and you just heard debate where there's contradicting what the amendment does, what the bill does. That's it. This is a very important bill. It's 1 hour, 1 hour. So if we can't have that, I don't know what to tell you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the committee. Let's listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, I'm voting yes in support of my speaker, but also because what we have been debating are the amendments. And so what I have been stating is the law that supports negating those amendments. I did not say that that was in the bill. I did not say that a notification is in the bill, nor did I say that the other amendment was in the bill. I was giving you all the law of where it is in other places. I'll be more than happy to, so anyway, that's my vote. No, my vote is a yes.
Okay, so the clerk will take the call. There being 88 votes in the affirmative, the motion is adopted. Okay. Are there any other amendments to the bill as to its title? Oh, we have the amendment. Okay. Thank you.
Do we have an amendment?
All right. So the question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk would take the call. There being 90 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I don't have an amendment, but I do have some questions on the bills.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Hey,
Hello.
good afternoon.
You're
Good
welcome.
afternoon.
So, what crimes does this actually apply to now?
It applies to firearm crimes.
Is that it?
Just about, yeah. Hold on 1 second. I'll give you what it is. Assault in the first degree is also included. So it includes those crimes that I just mentioned where a juvenile will be charged as a juvenile, or at least their case will start in juvenile court.
But how many different crimes does it apply to? Because it's more than just firearms. I'm looking
No,
through here.
I gave you first degree assault. as well as, what's the second one? Assault, so it's first degree assault and no, I want. Yeah, so there's a total of 7 charges. Did you want me to name them all?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay, hold on one second. Just a second here. Okay, so first degree assault, as I've said probably 4 times now. Sorry about that. Possession of a regulated firearm, sell, rental, or transfer of a regulated firearm, sell, transfer, or disposal of a stolen regulated firearm, and wearing, carrying, or transporting a handgun, and firearm in connection to a drug trafficking crime, and possession of a firearm after conviction.
So is there any reporting in the bill dealing with recidivism?
There is a requirement to report. The DJS has to report, but with respect to recidivism, there is no. I'm going to say no briefly because I'm not seeing it right away. There are reporting requirements, but I don't remember if recidivism is one of them. Actually, yes, it is. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering how can we tell?
Yeah, I got it.
2 or 3 years from now whether this bill has produced more juvenile crime or resulted in less.
Well, these things are tracked all the time. We have, like I said, there is a full reporting requirement in the bill. And so what we do is compare the numbers, which is what we've been doing. You track actually what was someone charged with or convicted of, and they track the process of that individual and what happened from there. Did they receive services? Did they receive detention? Or did they commit a new crime? We also, so there we are. Hopefully that explains your question.
A little bit, because we've had numerous juvenile crime bills for really this entire term. We had an entire package a few years ago, and then juvenile crime exploded in the state of Maryland to the point we had to pull back some of it and reverse course a couple years later. Now I'm just trying to think of which way this bill takes us. Does it crack down on juvenile crime, or will it make it worse? Did the prosecutors weigh in on this?
Okay, so you've asked me a couple of questions. I'll take them in the order in which they were given. The first question with respect to whether or not it cracks down or makes it worse. This is a processing bill. And what this bill says is how will children be processed in the system? With respect to the state's attorneys, yes, they weighed in. They are a major stakeholder when it comes to prosecution. So yes, indeed.
Were they for the bill or against the bill?
Not this year. They've been in favor of some language in the bill in previous years. This year they were not.
Did they indicate why they would be against this bill if it's supposedly getting better?
Well, that was not the reason. It wasn't because it was getting better or worse. As I said, this is a processing bill. This bill states to how children are processed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the floor leader answering these questions. I'm sure other members might have some questions. Thank you.
Sure.
You're welcome. Seeing no other questions or debate, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Does anyone care
Madam
to
Speaker?
recognizing the gentleman from Montgomery?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, to explain my vote.
You're welcome.
Rise in support of this legislation. Recognize that it is not perfect. as someone who believes that we still have a lot of work to do on juvenile justice, this bill is the first step that I think in the right direction to ensure that we are not continuing to criminalize our youth. And what's unfortunate is that really Maryland is second only to Alabama in the amount of young people that we auto-charge as adults. And that is not something any one of us should be proud of in this chamber. We don't want to be in any category with states like Alabama and Florida on any indicator. But here we are, because we choose to charge kids as adults, and more specifically 33 offenses. The bill narrows it down to 7, and it really speaks to the work that we still need to do, but it's the step in the right direction. And my hope is that we will come back and we will do more around juvenile justice to ensure that we're not criminalizing black and brown youth who ultimately become overrepresented in jails and prisons, not because they're inherently criminal, but because of the laws that we pass here or we fail to repeal. And so I'm proud to support this, and I hope we come back and we look at police lying to kids, we look at other juvenile justice measures, and we do something on behalf of those most vulnerable. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the Minority Whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
I
welcome.
am proud to be red on this bill. This bill is a uniting bill. Every single state's attorney in Maryland, Baltimore City, Prince George's County, Howard County, you name it, Frederick County, is adamantly opposed to this bill. You know why? Because this is another piece of work from this assembly that cares more about the offender than the victim. When are we going to start looking out for the victims in this state? You want to compare us to other states? We are probably the worst state in the nation when it comes to protecting victims. Nothing in this bill does anything for the victims, nothing. We're once again protecting everyone except the victims, and their lives are forever changed. In every single one of our jurisdictions, the victims' lives have changed. And that's why your state's attorney, and I'm looking at every single person in this room, your state's attorney, Republican and Democrat alike, hate this bill because it does nothing for the victims. So I am proud to be red because I will always stand for the victims in our state. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am proud
Welcome.
to be green on this vote, not because it's perfect, because I do not believe that perfection should be the enemy of the good. But the 7 offenses that are included in this bill, they are not abstractions. They cover real youth, real children that will now go into a courtroom with a juvenile judge that's prepared to assess them as a total person, as a youth, and not simply the offense for which they are charged. I also stand before you supporting this based on real facts, not just vibes. I know for a fact that in Baltimore City, as recently as 2024, about 76% of youth that were charged as adults ended up either being transferred back down to youth or dismissed. So the time that we spend introducing people to places they shouldn't be in the first place, that is not only wrong, it's actually a bureaucratic abdication. We are correcting that record today, and across the state, approximately 75% to 87% of youth end up either having their cases dismissed or transferred down. That's approximately $17 million we spend annually sending people to places that will ultimately reject them. This is a bill about good governance. This is a moral issue, and I'm proud to be green on this vote.
Recognizing the Minority Leader.
I don't want to criminalize kids. I want to criminalize violent offenders. I want to criminalize people who wave handguns from cars to other people while engaged as drug traffickers. You all tell me how much you hate guns, but you don't. You don't. You don't. Because the gun isn't what causes the killing. It's the individual that pulls the trigger. And the people who are engaged in putting themselves in situations where they pull the trigger, we want to go light on them. We want to go light. It's politically expedient. We want to go light on them. That's what the bill does. The gentleman from Wycomico County's amendment said, let's remove 2 categories. 2. Firearms in the commission of drug trafficking or possession of firearms after you've already been a convicted felon and you're not allowed to have firearms. Do you all think that a 16-year-old who's been a convicted felon and is not allowed to have firearms and then gets another gun and runs out, they should just be put in juvenile court. It amazes me because if you believe that, you've never been in juvenile court. If you believe that, you've never looked at what the juvenile system does because they let you out in a fairly short period of time. That's why I'm red on the bill. I completely agree. There are a lot of offenses that we could have said, hey, maybe we should just charge these people as juveniles rather than adults. I think the committee and the entire system did a good job of culling some of those out. But as usual, we went too far because the activists demand it. The activists outside those doors are beating those doors down. The activists would have you charge everyone in this state as a juvenile if they meet a certain racial characteristic. That is a fact. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they do, the activists will tell you it has a disparate impact and therefore we have to treat them as juveniles. Why would anyone care about those characteristics when you're dealing with someone who is potentially a violent criminal? Violent.
Your time is up.
Ridiculous.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Explain my green vote, colleagues. I think we've gotten a little bit away from what this bill does, and I just want to take you back to a few basic points. The delegate from St. Mary's asked, how is this bill related to what we did a couple years ago on juvenile justice? You will recall that was a tortured debate, and it led to us leaving a situation where children in Maryland can be arrested and incarcerated for handgun possession. Nothing in the bill today changes that. And when you hear people say they wish this bill went further, I think that's what they're talking about. Nothing in this bill changes that children can be incarcerated for the crimes that we are now saying they're going to start in juvenile court. Why is that? Because in juvenile court, under the juvenile system, under that same bill that that delegate from St. Mary's was alluding to, you get services. And this body spent a lot of time debating what those services should be, auditing, and trying to get services for kids wrapped up in these crimes. To be clear, the bill has nothing to do with murder and rape and all of that. That's out of the bill. The amendments that you were discussed, again, have nothing to do with the bill going forward. It simply starts these cases in juvenile court. They may still end up in adult court, but most of them do not. And this is because in Maryland, we believe children have the possibility of redemption. Show us the evidence otherwise, and unfortunately the system does allow that and throws them back into adult court, but in Maryland we think they have hope. So please stick with us. It's a very reasoned bill. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Well, I'll certainly be watching to see how this plays out once it's implemented. And for the state, I hope it works. I hope you guys are right. I hope this actually, improves the outcomes and makes recidivism lower. I guess I'll wait for a study to show that. But I did want to comment. My good friend from Montgomery County had mentioned that we don't want to be on any lists with places like Florida and Alabama. But just so the body knows, in terms of in-migration, that means people migrating to states, it shouldn't shock anyone on this floor to know that Florida and Alabama are both on the top 10 list for migration. People want to move there. They want to move there so badly that they're leaving states like Maryland. We've lost more than 100,000 people in the last couple years, according to the Comptroller's report. And states just like and including Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Arizona, Idaho, and Alabama are all on the list of people who are picking up our members of our state who are escaping with their lives.
Recognizing the delegate from Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my red vote. As I'm looking through the testimony, and it would have been nice to have that simple hour to have a little bit more time to take a look at it. I just want it stated for the legislative record. It's been alluded to already. Maryland State's Attorney's Office, Baltimore City State's Attorney, Worcester County, Wycombe County, Montgomery County, Baltimore County, Prince George's County, the Chiefs of Police, the Sheriff's Association, all the people that are dealing with these issues every single day of their working lives, who are trying to work and take care of a system that has been broken. We've been trying to fix it. We don't give it enough time, and then we're back here again, and we're undoing some of the things we'd done before. It's extremely frustrating. I live in the Baltimore market, so that's the news that I get. Every single day, it's the report on the number of crimes that are occurring, and so many of them have been more and more. It's growing by juveniles. It is now moved into Baltimore County. I live in Carroll. We're starting to see more crime as well. Everyone knows there's no consequences. And I just want to end with the Baltimore City State's Attorney's letter that I found very interesting. The proposal to require that all juvenile cases begin in juvenile court, regardless of the offense or circumstances, poses serious and immediate risks to Maryland's justice system. The current system is already operating beyond capacity, struggling to meet statutory timelines, managing caseloads, and providing appropriate services. An across-the-board jurisdictional shift would significantly increase the volume of cases entering juvenile court, placing unsustainable pressure on a system unprepared and ill-equipped
The lady's time is up.
to absorb such an influx. Thank you.
Recognizing the majority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
You know, colleagues, I proudly have a green vote on this board because this is a product of compromise. Many of the letters that have been read are testimony that was submitted when the bill was in an original posture. What we're voting on right now is the work of this body, the work of our colleagues in the other house, coming together with advocates, the crazy activists, all of the folks who contribute to the work that we do. But you see a majority of green votes on that board is because we here are the policymaking body, and we're deciding that we are going to make sure kids are seen as kids here in our state, that they are redeemable, that we give them the opportunity to be the best person that they can to provide pathways for progress. This allows us to do that. And so I'm so proud to be in the majority of this policymaking body and voting green on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm voting red on this because we just had an incident on Friday, St. Mary's County down in Myrtle Point Park, where a 17-year-old was previously charged, and apparently he was released at some point, charged with a firearm crime back last fall, and then he was arrested, him and his buddy were arrested last Friday night after 20 gunshots were fired at 6:53 p.m. So, look, we have a problem with crime. This is the results of the soft on crime policies that we have in Maryland. And this isn't the right way to go. So for the neighbors in Myrtle Point Park, I'm voting red.
Calling the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This body is deliberate. A few years ago, we passed legislation to deal with our concerns about juveniles. And in that legislation, there was a commission that was created. And I am appreciative of the fact that the Speaker appointed me to that commission, the Juvenile Justice Reform Commission. And during that process, 18 months, that commission, state's attorneys, superintendents, law enforcement, advocates, it was led by one of my former professors, Judge Andre Davis. That commission took one vote, one recommendation, and that one recommendation was that we really needed to reconsider charging youth as adults. That's the only vote we took. This is a result of a lot of thought and work. That recommendation then came back to the chair of JPR and the chair of Judiciary. There were 33 charges that a young person could receive and be charged as an adult. We've only reduced it to 26. As the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, I got to look at this through a different lens. 81% of the young people who are charged as adults look like me and my kids. This is an imperative, and this is really just a small step. And folks are right. Yes, the advocates want all of them, and they are disappointed. And the state's attorneys don't, none of them, and they are disappointed. But at the end of the day, we've taken a small step in the right direction. It's now time for us to see how this works. The reporting is in the bill. The Department of Juvenile Services is ready to accept these children. So folks, let's support this. That's why
The
I'm a green
gentleman's
vote.
time is up. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I have a red vote today because there are some crimes that are so egregious that they just never happen through misadventure. In eastern Baltimore County, a few years ago, there was a burglary. It was the theft of a dirt bike with the use of a firearm. The homeowner, it was a elderly lady. She came out and she confronted the young man, and he said, "If you follow me, I'm going to kill you." And she had a heart attack and died right there. And when we move these type of crimes and start them as juvenile cases, what we're saying is that this is not a serious offense. And I think we ought to think about the way the juvenile system handles these crimes. Because if you follow the crimes that happen in your district, you know what the juvenile system does? Right back out, same day. The problem with the juvenile system is we frequently can't see what's happening. And if you follow these cases, these violent cases, these cases where there is a victim, most frequently, these kids are out the same day, same week, offending again and again. You remember that case where the young man had stolen 16 cars in a row? That was my district. When the police officer dropped him off at his house, he said, "I'll see you tomorrow." And we're moving some of the most egregious crimes in our statute to a system that has proven not to remediate these children. So I think what we're saying here is there's egregious crimes in which we're willing to abandon victims. I think that's an injustice, and that's why I'll be a no today.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my green vote, first, this bill is about charges, not convictions. When a child is charged as an adult, their name is public, their picture is public, that damage to that child is irreversible because their name is out there forever for everyone to see. What happens in this state is when you start in the juvenile system, the state's attorney has the right to request a waiver to waive that case up to adult court. They can do it in every single case. But when they start as a juvenile, that protects the integrity and the innocence of that child until they are adjudicated delinquent or proven guilty. They deserve the presumption of innocence just like every single adult. And we protect our children. That's why we don't publish their names and their pictures. But when they start as an adult, that protection is gone. When a case starts in adult court, guess what? You can do a reverse waiver and ask that it be sent back down to juvenile court if you can prove that the juvenile system can provide the services for that child. We need to think about what we're doing. This body has said children cannot get married because they're too young to understand what they're doing. We have said children cannot enter into contracts because they can't be held legally responsible for their actions. We don't allow children to smoke. We barely allow children to drive. We have to be consistent in our thinking and not schizophrenic in how we are going about treating our children. There is a process that will allow children who need to be in the adult system to waive up, but we cannot reverse what happens to them when we start them in the adult system. So I'm proud to vote green because this bill strikes the balance that we need to protect our
Ladies'
children.
time is up. The gentleman from Hartford County. If you notice, I'm trying to be balanced when I called you, right? I hope you're noticing that, and I'm calling on all of you, so thank you for being patient, okay?
Thank you very much so. First and foremost, one of my biggest concerns is this entire conversation has revolved around the individuals who are suspects and possibly committed crimes. We haven't talked about victims much at all, except for a few folks from the minority party. But what I want to focus on is a different angle. A few years ago, we considered and passed the Juvenile Interrogation Act. What that bill did was saying law enforcement cannot question a juvenile, right, without permission from an attorney. And we argued that what's going to happen is these drug dealers are going to have a kid sitting next to them with the drugs and the guns on them, right? And then when the cops show up, they can't even ask the kid what's going on, and they get away with it. And that's happening repeatedly in our communities. What this bill does, it downgrades sale, transport, distribution of a stolen firearm. So now the drug dealers who are already using these kids as mules, knowing that they can't be questioned, also know if for some reason they do get caught with a weapon on them, or selling the weapon, or transporting the weapon, or disposing of the weapon for the drug dealer, they cannot be charged as an adult. So now what we've done, we have done more work to make drug dealers' jobs easier. I had a middle school teacher in Baltimore City tell me her kids are not showing up to class, they're getting paid $1,200 a week to be mules for these drug dealers, and we've just made their jobs a hell of a lot easier. With that, I will be voting red.
Recognizing the delegate from Southern Maryland, then Eastern Shore.
Madam Speaker, I was very torn on this bill, and the inception of this bill, I was a definite no. A lot of things I've heard on the floor today about the most egregious crimes. I got to admit that I'm still a little nervous about the first-degree assault, but armed carjacking, rape, attempted murder, all those things start in adult court. And be very clear, it starts in the juvenile court. That doesn't mean it cannot be waived up. It doesn't mean it will not be prosecuted. I'm tentative green because I do want our children to be treated correctly. I will never forget that my people are also the victims. So never let that go unspoken. But I do believe that the committee process was amazing. At the end of the day, I want to make sure the only thing we do is that we make sure that if we're sending these kids to juvenile court, that we have a DJS strong enough to actually support them, lest we be back here next year, which I hope that's part 2 of this process. But I do trust this committee. I saw the work, and for the advocates, I know there are so many things that they did not want, and I'm comforted in knowing that everybody walks away with their shoulders down, but hopefully with some hope that we're at least doing the right things for some of these children. Thank you.
You're welcome. Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Two adult children. And one of the things that I've always wanted since they were born is that they become, productive, happy, productive citizens of our country. And in order for them to be able to do that, they have to be able to identify what the rules are, what the laws are. And as a parent, in order for them to be able to respect the law, in order for them to be able to respect authority, you have to be consistent in your discipline. And what I'm concerned about here is the trend that this body's moving in over time is we're becoming less consistent in our discipline. And we talk about rehabilitation, we talk about punishment, we talk about all these different things. But rehabilitation is the same as punishment. Rehabilitation is the same thing as holding these young kids accountable, because one of the things I learned about kids, they're not stupid. They're gonna push you. And if they see one sign of weakness when it comes to your enforcement of the rules, whether it's in your home or outside of your home, is they're going to exploit those cracks anytime that you don't enforce the law or you don't enforce the rules. How far is this going to go over time, 5 years, 10 years from now? I don't know. At some point, I think we're going to be in a position where we're just basically going to exempt children from any laws that are out there. They can basically carte blanche do whatever the hell they want to do outside of the home, and there won't be any accountability. I don't know if that's where we're going to go. I don't know if that's what where this body wants to go, where the advocates want to go. But it's a serious concern that we have, and that's the reason why I'm putting a red vote up on the board right now, because we're trending in the wrong direction from the reasons that I just spoke about. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call.
I stood up when you did. She said she was
There being 92 votes in the affirmative and 39 votes in a negative. The bill passes. Is a clear, having received those numbers, a constitutional majority is a clear pass.
Madam Speaker?
Yes.
Vote change, please, Madam Speaker. My vote on amendment number 503923/1, vote to no. I apologize for not paying attention, Madam Speaker.
It's okay, it happens. Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
I'm sorry, I just want to really, I know that you guys just did this.
We're done. We're done. You
No
cannot
problem.
get up.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Howard.
A vote change, please, on SB 323, Amendment 943025/1 to nay.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery.
Madam Speaker, vote change on Senate Bill 100. I'm agreeing. Thank you.
Any other vote change? All right, I just want to thank everyone for the civil discussion, okay? Thank you. We are now, for those that are following on the computer, House Door Reading Calendar number 129, and we're going to start with the first bill, which is 106. Would the clerk please read the bill?
House Bill 106, State Personnel Collective Bargaining, Non-Tenure Track Faculty.
House Bill number 106 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you so much, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
I just have a couple questions about how this implementation process
Floor leader?
is going to work.
The floor leader's up.
Oh.
Right here to your, right here.
Good afternoon.
Sorry,
How are you?
I got
okay.
confused by the, I got
Thank you, Madam
confused by
Speaker.
the
You're welcome.
the page, the lovely page. Okay, so my understanding, and it might not be totally accurate, so you can just correct me, is that faculty will be able to have collective bargaining at state institutions. Is that correct? But that
Non-tenure track faculty.
yeah, but that the state is not going to be financially paying that? How does that work?
Well, so I'm happy to address the question. I do also just want to say the Senate bill has passed already in
Yeah,
the same posture as it did. So
yeah.
we can continue to have this conversation on the floor. I'm happy to talk with you afterwards if you want as well. But the Senate bill is already through. So your question was around financial.
Yeah, so my question was, I had some folks reach out that were saying, how will the universities be paying for this since it's sort of going to be on them financially and not the state, or something along those lines?
Yeah, so I mean, I will first off just say, you know, there's nothing in the bill that details or dictates what should be in this agreement. You know, collective bargaining, for the most part, is often about, you know, having a seat at the table, and certainly we heard from, you know, individuals across the state and across the university system that talked about wanting to have a little bit more input on their schedules. They wanted to have more input on, you know, rights and conversations around course pieces and things like that they might not have, especially those who are adjuncts that, you know, may only be on campus for a limited amount of time. Right. Obviously, there will be an opportunity for them to talk about benefits and salary as well. That obviously is part of a collective bargaining agreement. And the university system obviously has the ability to, you know, fight and negotiate on any piece. At the end of the day, you know, obviously the university system's budget is ultimately part of the budget of the state of Maryland, and we have an active role to play, we being the General Assembly as well as the governor, in you know, funding or not choosing to fund pieces of their budget requests like we would any other agency or state-affiliated agency.
Okay, so potentially, though, there could be a contract negotiated that it's not within the purview of what the state intends to give the university. So I'm thinking, like, University of Maryland, they have a pretty decent sized budget, but what about a smaller school like Frostburg or something like that? You know, could it lead to higher costs is my real concern. Could we end up looking at a situation where the state prioritizes certain universities and certain types of programs, they give a big budget, but every university is now going to be dealing with collective bargaining of these adjunct professors. And, you know, some other states, when I was just doing a cursory look, some other states have done something similar, and that it did lead to increased costs, tuition costs. So was that looked at by the committee?
Yeah, I mean, I think for every one state that you could find where they could say that the cost went up, we have, you know, an equal number of states where the cost, there's a number of research studies that I'm happy to share with you that show overall the costs didn't increase, and actually the satisfaction of folks who are in these positions often increase, which actually improves the overall you know, quality and measurements of work on campus. You know, at the end of the day, I don't want to debate hypothetical scenarios here because, you know, once we get into the university system gets into a negotiation and they are looking at individual things. We know the university system nor the unions want to put themselves out of business, and it is a collaborative approach. These are not meant to be adversarial negotiations. These are meant to overall improve the quality of instruction that's coming out of the university system, the overall experience that's coming out for the students, the overall experience for the research and the world-class work that our institutions are doing. It's not meant to, drain the resources and put anybody out of business or dramatically increase costs for anybody.
Okay, so in that vein, did any of the universities come in support, or were they all in opposition?
So the university system the university system office often represents the views of the individual institutions. We did hear from the University of Maryland, Baltimore, which obviously is the graduate programs for the University of Maryland. I don't believe that the University of Maryland individually testified, but we've obviously had, as a committee, we've had conversations with their team. We've had conversations with a few individual universities where this impacts them more potentially than others. But the official folks that testified were the university system and the University of Maryland, Baltimore, and I believe Morgan State sent in testimony. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah,
it's been a long session already. I'm not 100% sure if they came in and testified in person.
Okay,
but
yeah,
they did submit.
I just really quickly pulled it up, and it does look like you're right. Morgan State unfavorable, university system unfavorable, University of Maryland, Baltimore unfavorable. Global campus unfavorable. Okay, all right. I appreciate that. Is if you could send me the studies that showed there was not an impact on tuition, I think that would be good because, it's already really expensive now. I mean, when you and I were kids, I know that I don't know if you lived here, but it was a lot cheaper to go to University of Maryland when we were applying for college just a couple years back. So it has gotten kind of expensive, and I worry each time we do something like this, it's going to make the cost even harder for people to attain a degree from one of our state schools.
I think that's an excellent point. Something that we grappled with. We talk a lot in our committee, having served on the appropriations committee. That's something we talk a lot about. That was a huge priority when I served on the Education and Economic Development Committee. I know it's a huge priority for the chair and the speaker to make sure that we are fully funding our university system, to make sure that every Marylander, whether they're going to College Park, whether they're going to St. Mary's, whether they're going to Frostburg, I won't name every school because I'll leave somebody out, but
they'll be offended, and
exactly.
You'll get flags sent to you in the mail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The University of Maryland Global Campus and University of Maryland Shady Grove in Montgomery County, but it's something we obviously are going to continue to focus on. But we also want to make sure that the folks who make the university system great are frankly the thousands of faculty, non-tenure faculty, the staff. They are the heart and soul of the university system, and we want to make sure that they have a seat at the table and that that their rights and their thoughts are taken into account when we're looking at overall policy.
Okay, I appreciate you answering my questions on a House bill third reader with the Senate bill already passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other question or debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative and 34 votes in the negative, House Bill number 106, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 617, City of Frederick Noise Abatement Monitoring Systems Authorization.
House Bill number 617 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 105 votes in the affirmative and 29 votes in the negative, House Bill number 617, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 669, State Highway Administration, Third-Party Road Improvements, Required Work Schedule.
House Bill number 669 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Does anyone care to change their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 669, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1233, Washington County Mobile Food Service Facilities and Semi-Permanent Food Service Facilities, Toilet and Lavatory Facilities.
House Bill number 1233 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1233, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1621, Wastewater Treatment Plants, Discharges, Requirements.
House Bill number 1621 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If the floor leader would entertain a question. I know that the bill was amended. Does it, behind me. Good afternoon. Does it continue to impose a mandate on a unit of local government? Because that was what was in the fiscal note, or has that been changed?
Yes, it does, but it's very much watered down. And
it's been filtered throughout the system?
Yeah.
Gotten rid of all the bad stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty minimal.
And the bill does have, it has a good purpose. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it does.
It's to eliminate some environmental problems that occur predominantly in Baltimore County, Baltimore City communities with some of your wastewater plants?
As amended, the bill mostly deals with disclosure when there have been overflows, discharges, et cetera.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
All right. Any other question or debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Does anyone care to change their vote from a red to a green? Okay. If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative and 5 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1621, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. House third reading calendar number 130. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
House Bill 45, Labor and Employment, Mandatory Meetings on Religious or Political Matters, Employee Attendance and Participation, Maryland Worker Freedom Act.
House Bill number 45 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 35 votes in the negative, House Bill number 45, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. House third reading calendar number 131. The clerk will read the bill, please.
House Bill 299, Fraud Prevention, Prevailing Wage and Living Wage, Prohibitions, Penalties, and Enforcement.
House Bill number 299 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'll take
You're welcome.
I'll take more than 20 seconds, but less than 2 minutes. On
Okay.
Let me just say this. I stand firmly on the side of understanding the Department of Labor being one of the strongest regulatory departments in the state of Maryland. As a business owner that's regulated by the Department of Labor, and more specifically on some of the policy subjects here, I understand how serious these are. I understand why these bills exist. What I don't understand is why the bill's here, because at the end of the day, as I'm reading this bill, I'm not detecting anything that relates to how you make business easier for the state of Maryland, how you help when you've got businesses that make honest mistakes, how do you bring them into compliance. What I see is a tremendous amount of enforcement. I see additional burdens being put on the private sector through these policy changes. You know, look, I'm not going to get into, I said 2 minutes, and I mean it. Most of the people that own small businesses, that are independent contractors, the smallest businesses, have a hard enough time just existing day to day to try to make a living. They are not only just business owners, but they're practitioners. So these independent contractors are the workers who at the same time are saying at the end of the day, I want to live the American dream, I want to do what I want to do and help my family the best way I know how. That's not by way of being an employee or being a union member. It's to say I'm going to wake up one day and be a business owner. Those same business owners that choose to make that decision look at a bill like this and say, I want to be an independent contractor, look at their contractors, their higher tiered subcontractors, and say, how do I do this? How can I run my business during the day and at the same time stay in compliance with tax law, business regulation law, and then if you really want to get into a subject about worker classification, the difference between how the comptroller views classification, unemployment insurance, workers' compensation, how the IRS views these same things. And then, on top of that, Maryland's Department of Labor, with its very unique three-pronged test about how I can or can't be viewed as an independent contractor. These are the reasons why, Madam Speaker, I stand on a bill like this. Not because I disagree with the principle that we need to make sure that there's fair, equitable bidding processes, that we have the right worker protections, and then where warranted, we make decisions as a state as to whether somebody's an employee or an independent contractor. But because at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, this bill doesn't advance those issues. What it does, it makes it harder for small businesses to exist in the state of Maryland. For those reasons, respectfully, I oppose the bill.
Thank you very much. Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, first of all, I just want to remind everybody that the Workplace Fraud Act was passed in 2009. This is not a new concept. This concept that we're trying to stop workers from being misclassified as independent contractors when they really should be employees. And that misclassification hurts a lot of people. It hurts workers because they lose protections including minimum wage, overtime, the right to organize, access to paid sick and safe leave, prevailing wage, protection from discrimination, retaliation. But it also hurts law-abiding businesses. And I heard the gentleman say that, that this hurts businesses are over-enforced, but there are businesses who want to do the right thing who cannot because their labor costs are 20 to 30% higher than businesses who are cheating by misclassifying workers. And all of that is in the current law. But what happened was the current law was not being adequately enforced under the previous administration. So Governor Moore created the Joint Enforcement Task Force to look at this issue, and what they found is that workplace fraud is increasing. It's increasing. So they identified 7,767 misclassified workers in 2025, an increase of 38.8% over the prior year, which is $52 million in unreported taxable wages, which is a 44.4% increase. So the gentleman asks why this is necessary. That's why this is necessary, because workplace fraud is increasing. It's causing a race to the bottom that's hurting legitimate businesses, that's hurting workers, that's hurting the taxpayers because of tax money that's not being paid. So I urge the body to vote green on this bill. Thank you.
Recognizing the gentleman from Western Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Ask the floor leader a question.
Floor leader.
Hello.
Good afternoon. What was the vote in committee on this bill?
Hold on a second, please.
Sure.
It was 10 to 8.
So it passed by 1.
Passed by 2. 10 minus 8, I think, is 2.
Well, you have to have a majority. You have to have a majority. How many members do you have in the committee? You have 19? So if you had 9 votes, you would not have had. So it passed by 1 vote. Thank you.
And Madam Speaker?
Yes, recognizing the floor leader.
I just wanted to add that we did add a floor amendment which addressed the concerns of some of the members of the committee. Thank you.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, House Bill number 299, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore
Thank
County.
you. My legs didn't work as fast enough. Can I be recorded in the green on that vote?
Yes, make sure you fill out the yellow paper. House third reading calendar, number 132. The clerk will read the bill, please.
House Bill 774, landlord and tenant residential leases and holdover tenancies, local good cause termination, good cause eviction.
House Bill number 774 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I was actually thinking about putting an amendment on this bill, but I think it might be a little late.
Not even with a good lawyer could you do it. Just kidding.
I don't know. I've got some.
Have some good ones.
I know there was a debate about what is considered wear and tear or damages. I think we could fix this very simply by adding language to this, maybe the next session or something, next year, that would say that anything but above normal wear and tear would be considered damage. Because I know there's a problem with getting the explanation for damages.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure exactly what your question is, but I can say that there are, I think what your question is asking is how would damages be considered, and so there's a few different places in the bill. The first is a substantial breach of lease or causing substantial damage. The concept of substantial damage is well established in case law and in other landlord-tenant law, so that's addressed there. But the bill really goes beyond that because the bill's goal is really to make sure that tenants who are good tenants are staying and they're able to have stability in their lives, their families' lives, and the community's lives, but also tenants who are problematic to the property and to other tenants are able to be removed after the end of their year. And so in addition to the substantial damages, there's other sections of the bill that talk about disrupting of the livability, interfering with management, and other ways that other kinds of damages that might not even be substantial but disrupts the livability for folks could be taken into consideration in being determined to be an acceptable cause for the end of a lease.
Thank you. And you just answered my question. I was thinking about how do you determine what substantial damages is? That's a very concept that can be by different people, can have different meanings. That's why I was going to say that if this bill might have been amended to anything outside of normal wear and tear, accidents happen, that's understandable, but if someone kicks in a door, is that considered, substantial damage?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I think I described on Friday, but it's been a long couple days, this bill really is designed to fit into the context of the rest of landlord-tenant law. So it doesn't stand alone as a piece of law. And so all of the case law, all of the legal structures that are already in place that address questions of tenant holding over, questions of evictions, questions of damage, questions of disruption, questions of substantial. These kinds of questions that are either addressed in other parts of law or are addressed through case law still apply to this bill. So even though this bill is discussing them in a different context, all of those concepts apply. And so that's really where the case law, the effectiveness of the attorneys, the judge's discretion would come into effect. One can kick a door and have a stubbed toe, or one can kick a door and have the door totally fallen down. So it's hard to know if kicking a door is substantial damage, but depending on the details of that, that's really where case law would come into effect.
Well, thank you. And again, I think the answer to the substantial damage should be addressed. Maybe not this year, but next year. I think we should need to take a deeper look into it, because my understanding, substantial is very subjective. I might think it's one thing, you might say something else. That's why I'm saying if we would have added language in there that would have said anything above normal wear and tear, I think that would have answered the questions above what the conversations we have. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Eastern Shore, and then I'm going to go to Southern Maryland, okay?
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. On the bill, this session, aside from energy, housing is the top subject this year. We know that because early in session we had briefings from DHCD. Clearly we have bills that are in the legislature now, including this one, and also some bills that we've passed that relate to housing. And so at the same time, the legislature seems to understand that the moment is now to resolve issues with housing. We bring a bill that from the perspective of a landlord is tough at best. I would say that some of these are hits for the legislature, that we're going to do good things for housing. With respect on this bill, I think it's a bit of a miss. The timing is wrong on a subject like this, while at the same time we're dealing with some serious problems with the market and affordability and also availability of housing. I'm not going to go through everything I said in my committee. I respect the chair and vice chair as we had spirited debate in committee, but also on the House floor. But one thing I just want to share with the legislature, and that is that a lease is a contract. It is a contract between two parties. It is a contract that has a beginning and it has an end. I made a point of this in our committee when I said that the very first thing that is discussed in a lease has to do with these very basic terms about what it is that's happening. In a freshman in college, I took contract law. And what is contract law? Two parties coming together mutually for the purpose of honoring the basis for that contract. And when we say under a bill like this that we're going to violate some basic terms of contract law, that there should be a beginning because that's the lease beginning, and that there should be an end when the lease expires, that's no longer going to be happening under this legislature and this bill, I think we need to really think about what it is that we're doing here, because at the end of the day, two parties can and should come together in good faith and then be able to decide at the end of it, should we continue that relationship by contract? Or should we say, either mutually or not mutually, that at the end of that contract, we go our separate ways? Now, I know it's not quite as easy as that. I know housing is a little bit more important. There's a social component to this. But when it comes down to the legislature stepping in between the landlord and the tenant, stepping in between two parties that have entered willingly into a contract, I suggest we should do that carefully. This bill came on the House floor with no amendments. Thank you to the chair, vice chair, and also the sponsor of the bill that some of those amendments were adopted. But let me just say, having sat through the hearings and having sat through a spirited debate, there were many different opportunities to take a bill like this and say, let's make it a little bit better. Last year's bill, from what I understand, there were additional amendments that were negotiated. Now, clearly the Senate didn't move the bill last year, but all I'm saying to you, Madam Speaker, is that for this year, when we're saying housing is as important as any other subject, education and energy, and that it's in fact heightened this year because of DHCD and the governor bringing some important bills, this is the wrong policy, and it's even more worse coming at the wrong time when our state needs more landlords taking risk, taking the opportunity to work with tenants, to try to engage in commerce as it relates to having property we own and saying we're going to rent it to somebody when we're not going to be able to, as landlords, say we made a bad decision and we need to part ways. So, Madam Speaker, for many different reasons, and with respect to the sponsor of the bill, for which I understand the nature of why it's here, because good landlords want great tenants, and you want great tenants to stay for a long time. That's not how it always happens. And for those reasons, I'm going to vote against the bill and encourage the legislature to think carefully about what we're doing here today when housing is so very important a subject this year.
Recognizing the delegate from Southern Maryland, then the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
We had some debate on this bill on Friday. I'm going to nickname this bill the Hotel California bill. You can check in, but you never have to leave. That's what this bill does. This bill basically turns landlords into involuntary social workers subsidizing bad behavior. I think that this chamber miscalculates consumer confidence. Because coming into this session, one of the big issues was housing affordability. This makes rents go higher. Landlords have to build this into the calculation. And worse yet, bills like this that blatantly interfere with private property rights, guess what? It makes landlords quit. You don't believe me? Look at your own legislation. The last 4 or 5 years, we have poured hundreds of millions of dollars to subsidize people to build rental houses. We've never did that before. Why? Because people could make money renting houses, and the market worked. You guys are breaking that market. Stop helping. In the name of compassion for helping tenants, you're driving every mom and pop landlord out of this state. Hope you're proud of yourselves. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to just highlight a couple of things about this bill. First, I want to remind the body that this enabling legislation is going to allow local counties to decide if they want to implement good cause eviction. Good cause eviction basically means that if you're going to end a tenant's ability to live in your property, you need to give a reason. It's pretty straightforward. But what we know about good cause eviction, because it is currently applicable in 12 other states, including Colorado, Connecticut, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Washington, California, and cities such as St. Paul and Philadelphia. I really should wear my glasses. Because it's been around in those states in some cases for several years, we have information, thank you, Madam Chair, we have information about its effectiveness, not only in creating more stability for communities, which is the goal, more stability for children in their schools, which is the goal, but also we have information and we have studies that show that it does not, in fact, harm housing development. The research overwhelmingly shows that the things that affect housing development are zoning, land use, interest rates, raw material costs, all things which I'm very proud to say we have also addressed this year in this body. We've got a really good package of bills. We've got bills that are going to move and increase housing development, increase affordable housing, and we have bills that are going to protect tenants and keep tenants in their homes and with stability in their communities. Finally, I do want to address this question about contracts, because there are a number of areas in law where we do, in fact, as a public policy, address this question about our one-year contracts, not just one-year contracts. Can we require a property owner, a business owner, to extend contracts unless they have a good cause to end it, even if it begins as a one-year contract? And in fact, there's several areas of law where we do this. So the first that I want to highlight is the federal government in housing, the federal government in LIHTC properties, that's the low-income housing tax credit properties, so any property where the federal government subsidizes it with a tax credit, already has good cause eviction in place. And so we know that there are landlords across this state and across the country who engage and use essentially this same process. In the end of a one-year lease, the lease is extended unless there's a reason that is given as to why the tenant has to leave the property. So that already exists in housing. It exists in low-income housing, in any of the subsidized housing in the state, and that is housing that's been subsidized by the federal government and to some extent by the state, despite my gentleman from Southern Maryland statements, for decades. And we're grateful for those subsidies, and we need to continue to invest in them. But it's not just in housing, because in fact, in health insurance, in property casualty insurance, in auto insurance, in auto dealer franchise laws, in beer franchise laws, and in gasoline station franchise laws are all areas where Our public policy in this state requires that when that contract ends, when that one-year contract ends, unless there is a good cause given, the contract cannot be ended. It has to be extended. And so we have a history of identifying places where there's a broader public good, and we have found now another place where there's a broader public good, the stability of our communities and the stability of children in their schools. And so for that reason, Madam Speaker, I urge the body to vote yes on this important bill.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
To explain my vote, Madam Speaker.
You pressed it? Okay.
I did. I also had to get my buddy over here.
Okay.
Didn't want to forget him.
Go ahead, recognizing
Thank
the
you so
delegate
much.
from Hartford.
I just have to comment. The gentle lady from Montgomery County did read off a list of states, and you'll be excited to know that those states are also states who have massive out-migration problems. It will not shock anyone, I don't think, to know that policies like this make people leave.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the Ways and Means Committee.
Thank you so much,
You're
Madam
welcome.
Speaker. Colleagues, there has been much debate and discussion about this bill, but the premise of the bill is very simple. To explain my vote, no one should be evicted without a reason. Without a reason. Every single resident of Maryland, every family under your jurisdictions deserve a reason before they are told that they must leave their home. That is what this bill does. A landlord, if they decide not to renew a lease, simply provides a reason why they choose not to do so. I'm green on this bill because it is an enabling measure. It allows a county, if they choose to do so, to implement good cause eviction so that our residents have a reason and a fair chance to keep their homes. I'm proud to be green on this bill and encourage a green vote. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County, then the Eastern Shore, then Anne Arundel, then Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my green vote, I'm incredibly proud to vote for this bill for all the good reasons that the floor leader and the chair of the Ways and Means Committee have already said, but I'll add a few others. Partially because I know, when this subject matter was previously in the Environment and Transportation Committee, we heard this bill every single year in that committee. It was heard in Economic Matters this year, and I know it's a bill that the chair of the Ways and Means Committee has been working on for several years before I was even here. So when it comes to bills that have had the work put in and the compromise and literally hundreds of people and thousands of man hours working to come up with elegant solutions to our problems, I can't think of a bill that has had more work put into it than this one. And I'll also add that, again, we are in a housing crisis, and when it comes to making sure people have housing and are housed, part of the battle is ensuring stability, ensuring people can stay in the homes that they already live in while we continue to push and build for more housing. So for all those reasons and many others, Madam Speaker, I'm proud to vote green on this bill.
The gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So the expiration of a lease, which is a contract, should be a good reason to evict somebody, but in this bill it's not. That's first of all. Second of all, we're saying that we should move this bill because it's just enabling legislation. For those of us who have been around for a while, a lot of enabling legislation bills, over time they evolve, and typically it's the more progressive counties that will adopt these policies, and then after a few years go by, suddenly these mays turn into shalls, and then we're standing up on the floor again saying, you know what, we don't like this bill, but it's no longer enabling, it's a mandate. We're imposing our will on the jurisdictions that don't want these sorts of bills. So after 12 years, I've seen this happen several different times. So that's also a concern as well. And we want people to invest in Maryland. Whether it's biotech, whether it's pharmaceuticals, or whether it's agriculture, we want people who have the money to invest. We want people to invest in housing in Maryland. Not everybody can afford to buy a house. Most people don't have 20% down, but there are people who have a lot of money and they want to be able to invest it in Maryland. This sorts of bills gives them pause. And right now we have a housing crisis. Do we want to give investors any pause at all to invest in real estate in the state of Maryland? Right now is not the time to do it, and that's why I have a red vote. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I heard parallels
drawn to health care. The reason we don't want that is because we don't want them to be dropped when they have cancer. There is no parallel in this bill to that. It was a lot of words. I feel like I just drove 3 hours to spend a half hour at the beach. As a recap for this bill, I would just like the folks at home to know that we tried to define substantial damage. Excellent. No.
Thank you.
If a complaint is filed and the tenant remains in the property, the lease will be deemed month to month. No. Exempt active duty and National Guard, of which there's 50,000 of them in this state. No. Exempt short-term rentals as defined by your local jurisdictions. No. And for all those reasons, I'm a red vote.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I'm voting green on this bill. I've sat across from families who have done everything right. They're the tenant you would want. They pay their rent every month. They keep their property clean. They report problems when they're supposed to, and then they lose their home. Not because they broke a rule, but because the law didn't require anyone to give them the reason. I understand the other side. Somebody owns a piece of property, they invested in it, they kept it up, they saved for it, they're responsible for it. Property rights are real, and they matter here in the state of Maryland. But when a mother has lived somewhere for 12 years, when she's watched her children take their first steps in that home, when she marked their heights every birthday on the door frame, when she knows every neighbor and every creak in the door and in the floor, that's not just someone else's property that she's living in. Those aren't just two parties to a contract. That's her home. And so both can be true. Yes, it's his property, but it's her home as well. And the only question before the body today is whether one of those truths gets to erase the other, silently, without any explanation, without a single word of justification. And so we've asked tenants in this house, we've asked tenants to report health and safety problems. We've asked them to call the inspector. We've said it's okay to organize your neighbors, and they do. But then 60 days later, they get a notice in the mail. You got to go. No reason given, just a deadline, and children who have to switch schools. And those pencil marks on that door frame that nobody's going to see again. So this bill asks one thing. If you're going to tell a family to leave, if you're going to take the place where someone's children sleep away from them, you just got to be able to say why. That's the whole bill. Just say why. I'm green.
Explain my vote, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Southern Maryland and the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wasn't planning on standing up again, but I did want to offer some remarks after that grueling statement from Mayor Mandani.
For the gentleman, one second. That was not necessary. Well, first of all, that gentleman is not here. And second, it's just not necessary. Just make your point.
It was a joke, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
It was a joke because we know the majority party doesn't believe in private property rights. And I guess plan A is to make sure the tenants never have to pay a rent, never have to move out of the house, and we'll chip away until we'll do exactly what the last speaker said, take the house away from the landlord. This is the plan. It's infuriating. It's ridiculous. It's hurting the same people that you're trying to protect. And let me give you the reason why a landlord doesn't write why the lease isn't being renewed. Attorneys. There's always some type of lawsuit waiting behind the corner for these landlords, and this is the reason why they don't explain it. So again, the problems reside inside these chambers. You are raising the cost of housing with every single one of these bills. It's undeniable. Undeniable. And that's why I'll be voting red. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll just say this. I certainly respect the sponsor and the chair of the bill, and I certainly respect my friend from Montgomery County who talked about kids having to move. As a military kid, I grew up moving every 2 years. It's tough, I understand. But here's the situation. If you rent a car, you got to give it back. If I go to Ocean City and I rent a place for a week, I can't just then say, I choose to just stay in perpetuity. It doesn't work like that. It's a rental. It's not your home. It's a rental. If I rent a pair of skis, I got to give them back. They're not mine. And if you rent a place in Maryland as a rental, yes, at the end of the lease, you got to give it back. Otherwise, there's lots of problems. And so for those very simple reasons, that's why I'm voting against this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in strong support of this bill. Listening all this debate, it reminded me Jacques Derrida's great writing, Science, Structure, and Play. He presented that at Johns Hopkins University in 1966. He talks about one thing. All the time we look center-seeking tendency, and we define who is powerful. And always the powerful create that discourse. And he talks further that without the margin, there is no center. Then, without the constituents, we don't exist here. And without the teacher, there cannot be a student. Without the student, there cannot be a teacher. The power is not the vertical. The power is horizontal. And when we debated on this bill, this is very simple bill. All the time we remember Jefferson who walked here, and we talk about through the chamber, and we talk about life, liberty, and pursuit of social happiness. If the family don't have place to live and they have every reason to leave, they are paying the rent and everything, and if the landlord say you need to evict without the reason, what type of happiness that we are talking about? So this bill is a fine balance. It respects the landlord. It does not take away the landlord's right. And with all those reasons, Madam Speaker, I vote green.
The clerk will call the roll. There being 84 votes in the affirmative and 41 votes in the negative, House Bill number 774, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote
You're
change,
welcome.
on House Bill 617, nay to yay.
All right, thank you. Remember to turn in your yellow slip. Messages from the Senate, Senate Bill 773. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 213, Senator Lewis Young, House Rules. Senate Bill 841, Senator Feldman, House Rules, by order of Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
That was the wrong one. Committee report, right? Message from the Senate.
Okay.
Okay. The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Senate Bill 773, Health Occupations Pharmacist Vaccination Orders.
Recognizing the chair of the committee. Recognizing the chair of health. This is the receipt, Senate Bill 773.
I read the message.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health Committee wishes to concur with the Senate and recede from our position.
Okay. The clerk.
Madam Speaker.
Hold on one second, please.
Okay.
The clerk.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Said bill is returned herewith.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Could the floor leader on the bill let us know what the posture of the bill is now that it's that we have receded or we intend to recede?
The floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Got a couple of options available. Okay.
Sure.
You have 3 options. How's
yeah,
that?
you can never have too many people. from
Health is ready.
Yeah.
Go
they're ready
ahead.
to roll.
Yes, always. So this move puts the bill in the original posture, so it strikes the 3 amendments.
Okay, and was there any real discussion? Like, was it a conference committee? What happened? Who decided that? Who made the final call on removing that? Was it a full committee vote?
We had a full committee vote in the Health Committee. I'm unfamiliar about what the full back and forth was in the Senate, but they struck down all of our amendments and voted not to concur with them. And so in order to keep this very important bill alive, we decided to confer with them.
Okay, so the language in the bill now will allow any adult caregiver to vaccinate a child. That means it does not say in here, like we had adopted the language of parent or legal guardian. It no longer has that.
It does not explicitly say that in the bill, but the chamber should know that it's written in federal code what the definition of caregiver is, and that is specific to parent and custodial guardian. So out of an abundance of caution, we added that amendment, but it's not technically necessary.
Can you give us the citation, or can DLS give us a citation in federal code where that's true? I have not heard that.
Sure, it's possible. I think I would need a little bit of time to do it.
Could we special order it to the end of the evening?
We can put it to the end of when we're done with this
Sure.
this session, okay?
I would just ask for the approval of my chair before I make any moves.
Sure.
The Health Committee is happy to special order it to the end of the calendar.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
With a special order?
Messages, Senate Bill 18. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 18, State Board of Social Work Examiners, provisional license to practice social work established.
The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing the votes of the two houses, the Senate appoints Senator Hayes chair, Senator Reedy, and Senator Lamb. Said bill is returned herewith.
The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Hayes chair, Senator Reedy, and Senator Lamb. The House appoints Delegate Cullison chair, Delegate White Holland, and Delegate Riley. Said bill is returned herewith.
Message from the Senate. Senate bills introduced in the House. The clerk will read the bills and the committee assignments.
Senate Bill 213, Senator Lewis Young, House Rules. Senate Bill 841, Senator Feldman, House Rules, by order of Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
Senate Bill 773. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 773, Health Occupations, Pharmacists, Vaccination Orders.
Recognizing the chair of the committee. It's the same one, but we have to go through it.
Okay. Madam Speaker.
Yes. Recognizing the chair of the committee.
We had requested to special order this to the end of the calendar.
Okay. So we'll do. So this is the end of the calendar.
It's my first time.
It's okay. It's okay.
So I would like to defer to my floor leader to see if we have received the information that we have requested.
All right. Let's just be patient. Have
Thank
you
you,
received?
I'm searching as quick as my internet connection will allow me to. I know this because I worked on a previous vaccination bill involving pediatric vaccinations. So I know it's in there, but I don't have the citation.
We're going to wait, okay? We're going to wait. I'm going to give it Let's give it 5 minutes, okay? You just take a breather, look at your text for a second, close your eyes. Let's try to get the answer, okay? Just don't fall asleep. It is 5:41, 5:45, we're gonna start. And I'm staying right here. All right, maybe you wanna go to the back, get some water, stand up and stretch your arms. Just don't go too far. I have a little of an announcement, if I may, 1 minute. There's a courtesy of permission to use the delegate's name, permission granted. Delegate Healy, there's some cake in the back if you want to go get a piece, okay? And thank you. They have the answer, but we're going to wait till 5:45 because maybe someone's eating cake. Just 3 minutes. Gotta laugh. Right, 5:45. Will you be so kind and take a seat? Those in the back, will people tell them to come in, please? Let's give people a minute to have a seat. 5:45. Let's get started. All right? Okay, we'll wait for the Chair of Health to, we're gonna get started. We did say 5:45, want to keep my word. So the motion was, that the chair made was a motion to recede on Senate Bill 773. The lady from Hartford County asked a question. The floor leader, the lady from Montgomery County, needed a little time to find it. I am going to recognize the delegate from the floor leader, Montgomery County. Let's listen, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for everyone's patience. It is Title 42, USC 300 AA-33.
Yes.
And it's all the definition. On Part 2, it gives the definition, means parent or an individual who qualifies as a legal guardian under state law.
And you said, okay, I have 42 USC 300 AA 33-2, and it says the term is a legal representative?
That's correct.
Yes, and then it says a parent or an individual who qualifies as a legal guardian under the state law.
That's correct.
Okay, so it kicks it back to the state. So just for the record, it is the intent of your committee that only a parent or legal guardian, and not what the current bill actually states, is what you intend to be permitted to vaccinate children.
It should be the legal representative, which under federal law means a parent or guardian, which is, yes, that was our intent.
That was your intent. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, so the motion before the House, first I want to thank everyone for your patience, okay? The motion before the House is to recede in the House amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The House has receded. Senate Bill 773 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Giving people a second to get to their seat. Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 102 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 773, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates recedes from its position on Senate Bill 773. Said bill is returned herewith.
That ends the work at the desk. Any delegation announcements? Caucus announcements, recognizing the gentleman from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the Seersucker Caucus is alive and well. We shall see you all dressed appropriately on sine die, and we will have a photo taken in the rotunda, and we'll have a photo taken after the first session, because our newest member, our 142nd member of the chamber, Riley, is also wearing her seersucker. So please do not allow Riley to outdo you on sine die. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Any personal guest announcements? All right. Oh, recognizing the chair of the Environment and Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use delegates' names?
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of delegates Wallach, Warman, and myself, we'd like to give a warm welcome to the doctor of the day, my eye doctor, Dr. Howard Weiss.
Oh, welcome. Very well represented. Any other personal guest announcement recognizing the chair of the Prince George's County delegation?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, there is cake in the back. The cake didn't just get there by happenstance. The cake is actually just really, we know there are a lot of members who are retiring and leaving, but for the Prince George's County House delegation, we really wanted to honor the dean of our delegation, Delegate Ann Healy. She is my district, permission to use the delegates' names, oh my God.
Should I give it? Yeah, permission granted.
Thank you for the forgiveness, Madam Speaker.
You got it.
But we just wanted to honor the dean of our delegation today, Delegate Ann Healy. She is the longest serving member in our delegation. She also happens to be my district mate as well. And so I know that she is going to be missed greatly by our delegation, by this body, and also by the residents of District 22. And so I just wanted to just publicly just thank her so much for all of her years of service, for her leadership, for her wisdom, and for her mentorship. So thank you, Madam
Welcome.
Speaker.
Any other personal or guest announcement recognizing the minority leader?
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Permission to use the delegate's name?
Permission granted.
I would be remiss not to take a moment to express my sincere admiration for our colleague, Delegate Ann Healy, on her last week here in the General Assembly. My first or second year that I was here, we had an argument about coal, about something to do with coal. Myself and the gentleman in the back row from Garrett County are probably the only people in this room who know much of anything about coal. We're from the only part of the state that has any of it, and we grew up around it and know a lot of people. And I made the argument about coal, and afterward, Delegate Healy approached me and she said, you know, I'm from a Pennsylvania coal town. And she talked to me at length about her experiences with her family. She has always, in my estimation, been a class act and a credit to her community and to all of us here in the House of Delegates. I'm sad to see you go, but I wish you a lot of good days and a lot of good fortune in the future. So thank you, Delegate Healy.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the majority whip and then the chair of the, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just permission to use the delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Delegate Healy and I have a very storied history because we went from competitors to colleagues. And I am just extremely honored that I'm no longer nipping at your heels, but standing beside you here in the legislature as we serve our neighbors, our friends in District 22. Your 35 years of leadership puts out a legacy that we all can follow of just real servant leadership. You've always been about the work. You've always been committed to the people of Prince George's County and the state of Maryland. And I'm just so very proud to know that you came from our home district. So thanks.
Welcome.
Madam Speaker.
Recognize chair of the Environment and Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use
You're
delegate's
welcome.
name?
Permission granted.
Thank you. On behalf of the Environment and Transportation Committee, of which I am the third chair that Delegate Healy has served under, we just want to thank her for her years of service. I know she also did a long tenure on the Ways and Means Committee, but we don't like to talk about that. We'll stick with the Environment and Transportation Committee, where she's always been a very inquisitive, thoughtful member, and then at the right times, bringing down the hammer and bringing in the strength, usually on behalf of her county when needed. And I have to say, Delegate Healy, no matter what hair color you have today, I will always think of you in my mind as having that red hair. So you will be very much missed in ENT, and I know by the full House. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
May I
welcome.
Permission to use delegate's name,
Permission
please?
granted.
I need to stand up and look her right in the eyeballs. Delegate Healy was the very first person I met 12 years ago. And when I walked into the Calvert House, we had sat down beside one another and had genuine great conversation. And there were some other people in the room, but that particular day, she crawled into my heart. And we have more in common than we have apart. And I've grown to love her dearly. Her husband is a sweet gentleman, and I've watched her daughter grow, just watching her grow up in the last 12 years. And this past before session started, when she called me and asked about giving my room, it was not a hesitate. I said, you've got to have my suite. And I honor you, I love you, and I pray for you daily. Ann Healy, I love you. God bless you.
Amen. Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's, then Baltimore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use the delegate's name?
Permission granted, sorry.
Thank you. Delegate Healy, I just want to thank you for being a profile in courage. When I got here in 2011, you and Delegate Gaines were mentors to me. You taught me how to have the courage of my convictions. You taught me how to stand by my word and mean it. And it has been a pleasure to watch you and your friendship within Delegate Gaines, and how you stuck by her and how you've stood by all of us. And I just want to thank you and your husband and your daughter your husband for sharing you with us for all these years, and your family for sharing you as well. You really mean a lot to all of us, and thank you so much for everything that you've done to just teach us how to stand up and how to mean what you say and say what you mean. And thank you for showing me that it's okay to have some conservative principles in the Democratic Party. I really appreciate being able to see that. Thank you, Delegate Healy.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I
You're
was
welcome.
not going to get up, but I wanted to tell one quick anecdote. Permission to use delegates' names.
Permission granted.
So when I came in 2003 with and it was with Delegate Kaiser and I were both on the Ways and Means Committee together. We came in with our Vice Chair, Delegate Ann Healy, and that first year I was asked to be on the conference committee for the budget. I had no idea what I was doing, and I was told by Delegate Healy, just don't say a word, just sit quiet and don't say a word. And we go to show up at the conference, she probably doesn't even remember this, we go to show up at the conference committee, and the senators aren't there. They're nowhere to be found. So we asked Sheila Hickson, where were the senators? And she said they all went to opening day. They blew us off, they went to opening day. They were sitting in the governor's box. So I said to Ann, well, you know, when I was in law school, I worked for Peter Angelos. Should I give him a call? And she said, yeah, we gave him a call. And he says, I have 4 tickets left, and I will sell them to you at cost. And they were right in front, sitting next to Cal Ripken on the front row. So Delegate Healy and Sheila Hickson, and I don't remember if it was Carolyn Howard, and I all went to the Orioles game, and we sat there, and we got a call from the senators. They said, how come you're not at the conference committee? We're here waiting for you. And we said, no, you're not. We know you're not. And I said, and I gave the phone to Delegate Healy, and she said, and they said, well, we're at the Oriole game. We're sitting in the governor's box. And we said, well, look down on the front row. We're sitting right there. And Delegate Healy and Delegate Hickson worked out the conference committee report right there. They invited us up into the governor's box to work out the conference committee right then and there on the budget. And that was 2003.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City.
I rise to speak to something more important than baseball tickets.
No way. That's a first.
Permission to use a delegate's name.
Permission granted.
On the most profound issue that will ever become before this legislature, the repeal of the death penalty.
Yes.
Delegate Healy was with us, and she was with her church, and we repealed the death penalty with her help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's, then the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Permission to use
welcome.
delegate's name.
Permission granted.
As most of you know, I am Vice Chair of Rules and Executive Nominations. Delegate Ann Healy is my chair. I allow you all to borrow her. She is my chair. All right? And you will sorely be missed. And one of the things that I've always recognized about you is that when you talk to us about the history of this chamber, you explain us the history of this chamber very accurately. And you give us a step-by-step trail of how things took place. Intellectual history and things that took place in the olden times, and I'm saying olden times because I've been here 23 years, so I guess I'm old too. So things that took place, you brought those to current situation, and we understand now how traditions are raised and how they are preceded. So Delegate Healy, and we're going to miss you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Permission to use delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Delegate Healy, didn't know you very well, but you came running down this aisle last year and you inspired us to co-chair the Vampire Caucus together. And I gotta say, it was impressive to get to know you. You're a woman of integrity, and you inspired me to give blood for the very first time on the same day my dad gave blood for roughly the 100th time. And so without you, we would not have the Vampire Caucus. And I love you, thank you, and I appreciate you. God bless.
Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Permission to use the delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Delegate Healy, I just want to say that you have truly inspired me as a woman of virtue, a woman of character, and a woman of great courage. I've watched you, I've watched your calm spirit, and it has been a true inspiration to me. And so even though I'm still a freshman, I will definitely miss you dearly for the time that you've spent here. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Okay. Will you be so kind and come up here for a second, please? I want you to give you the honor to address your colleagues. Obviously, there's so much love for you, and you know how much I love you. And I know you for over 20 years. Very honored to serve with you. And you're going to be loved, okay? And we're going to stay in touch.
Thank you.
This is the love right here for you.
Oh my goodness. This is beyond anything I could imagine. This institution is such an important and wonderful thing, going back millennia, not quite, hundreds of years that the House of Delegates has been meeting. And to be part of this has always been a great comfort, joy, everything to me. I never expected to have this position, and I got here. I got to tell you, I felt like I was doing something I could not possibly do. I really felt like I was walking on water. It was like, this can't be. But I have been lifted up by all of you. You all know that I'm, dealing with health issues, and the love and the support that I have received from everyone here has been remarkable. I tell people when I travel, and I tell my family, I said, we don't have the kind of partisanship they have other places. Some of it is because we all sit among ourselves by region, not by party. And we really want to do things for the people as best we understand what is in their best interests. But I got to say, this has been an incredible day for me. So many things have happened, and my daughter is here. Earlier, the Prince George's delegation had a surprise party for me, and my son was there with my grandson, and his whole family, his little family there. His Robert and Hannah and TJ were there, and Teresa is here. They grew up here. We looked at the picture the day I was sworn in. Teresa was 9, Robert was 7, and they really did grow up around here. And I know many of you have family, and I remember wondering, how was I ever going to be able to do it? Part of it is because I have a remarkable family. And part of it is because of the District 22, because it is really a spectacular district. It is in my opinion, the most diverse community that you'll find anywhere. You could not create any kind of segregation in our neighborhoods because every single household is mixed with all kinds of people. And They choose to live there because we all know how to get along with each other. And that is the American genius, that we have learned how to get along with each other. And we need to remember that. We need to remember that the genius of the American experiment, that when people are fighting wars on religion, America found another way to have separation of church and state so that we could respect each other and honor each other even when we disagree profoundly about very important things, because that's what makes us America, and that's what makes this Maryland, and this House of Delegates is stellar. It is the whatever Ronald Reagan said, the shining beacon on the hill. We are doing it every day here, and I appreciate you all so much, and I am going to miss this place, and I'm going to miss all of you, but I'm very happy that I'm able to do this and leave on my own terms, still standing, having been through a few of these little wars that we've had over the years, and know that I'm full of hope and joy for the future of this state and of this country.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to introduce, actually, before I do that, I was going to introduce the pages, but I want to do the report of the committee, because it's so fitting, on rules and executive nominations. Report number 5. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 844, Annual Corrective Bill, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is auto passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 769, re-referred to appropriations.
Keep going.
Senate Bill 890, re-referred to Ways and Means and Health. Senate Bill 947, re-referred to Environment and Transportation. Senate Bill 1007, re-referred to Appropriations.
And I want to thank the clerk for being patient with me today. I'm telling you how to do your job when you know how to do it better than I do. Even mine. In any event, thank you everyone for your patience. Today is Monday, so you know that we introduced the pages. So I'd like the pages kindly to come up, please.
Come on down, you sunshines. Oh, what a day we've had. Haven't they been great? Come on now, you delegates. They've been waiting on your hand and foot, but guess what? They're going to do that this whole week. So be patient with them, because they will take care of you. Okay, now, I'm going to try to make this through, okay? Are you ready? Do you know the drill? Do I have to squirt my little gun, y'all? I'll do that. So somebody said yes? No jokes today.
No need to. Let's just continue.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
You know what to do. Okay. First up is Miss Ruth Onhop, Montgomery County, District 14, St. Andrews Episcopal School. Alyssa Collins, Carroll County, District 5, South County High School. Nathan Cochran, Dorchester County, District 37B, Cambridge, South Dorchester High School. Jasper Famous, Prince George's County, District 47A, Bladens High School. Alyssa Giovanni, Cecil County, District 36, Rising Star High School. Susan Metcalf, Baltimore County, District District 10, Western High School of Technology of Environmental Science. Madison Moore, Talbot County, District 37B, Eastern High School. Bria Morris, Baltimore City, District 45, Baltimore City College High School. And finally, Evangeline wait a minute, I'm going to get it. Roth. R-O-A-T-H. You got that? Oh, Roth? Okay, I got it now, Madam Speaker. Anne Arundel County, District 33B, Archbishop Spalding High School. Oh, I got through that, Madam Speaker. I just made one little mistake, but you know,
It's okay.
I'm human. It's okay.
We're all human. We're all making
Thank you.
mistakes.
It's from my heart. I love these sunshines, and we're going to have a fantastic time this week, and hope you come back next week. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for helping us today. We look forward to seeing you during the week. Let us know how we may be of help. Current call, please.
Madam Speaker, sorry, I know that I'm...
Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to make sure that I moved to journalize the gentlelady's comments from earlier.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? The clerk will take the call. There being 134 members present, the House is still in session. Recognizing the majority leader, let's listen for the time, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
I move that the House stands adjourned until Tuesday, April 7th at 10 o'clock a.m., legislative date March 20th.
Have a blessed evening, everyone. Thank you for the hard work. Thank you to the clerk.